What is up, everybody? Welcome to Truth and Transparency. Yeah. What is good? This is talks about the Brian Drake, Jennifer Drake, Dr. Moore case out of Idaho. So welcome. I'll let you guys pile all in while that's happening. Today's episode is sponsored by myself and community festivals out there everywhere. Today's episode is going to tell you my top 10. I'm going to unwrap my top 10 list of circumstantial evidence that, very, very questionable implications on Brian Drake's murder belonging to his, to include people in his family. So if you came for some tea, I'm going to bring some receipts too. So again, hello to all the mods. Hello to everybody that's out on the West Coast, East Coast. West Coast, you got to love it when I do the 10 p.m. So it's like 7 your time. Anybody that's in bed, listen up. But top 10. So again, Brian Drake was murdered. Brian Drake was murdered on March 12th, 2020. And the narrative is that Brian Drake was shot through his office window. And by one bullet, and at this magical bullet, he was unconscious. He was a goner within just a couple minutes. And that his wife was on the phone. Jennifer Drake was on the phone when this happened. Well, number one, circumstantial that I do not believe, and I think it's going to come out, is the trajectory of the bullet where the stool was. That stool would have been tossed over. There would have been shards of glass. Brian Drake would have been positioned differently in the office had he been struck through the window, and then, he's knocked out on the ground. His phone hits the ground. It's right by his head. Totally a different position. He would not have had dirt all in his back in the sweater. There have been glass shards around him. So number one, I'm going to have to go with the crime scene. The crime scene is number one. It is not indicative at all of Brian Drake being shot through a window. In fact, I think it's going to prove that he was not shot through that window. And that's going to be the biggest downfall there for, I believe, Miss Jennifer Drake, is she's the one that put it out there that she was on the phone with her husband, and her husband said that he was shot through the window. Why would your husband ever say that he was shot through a window if he was in fact not shot through a window? He could never say that if that didn't happen. You get what I'm saying? So now, this was said to have happened at about 7:26 p.m. Second piece of circumstantial evidence that is problematic is there is no 911 call registered to Jennifer Drake in and out of her cellular device. She said that she made a 911 call with her cell phone, which would have happened just after 7:27. And in fact, then Jennifer Drake makes weird comments to this. Let's see. She says, right here. Did you call him on the house line? I don't have a house line. It was on this. I did everything on this, as she's pointing to her cell phone. There's no 911 call here. And Bonner's Ferry called you at, I think it's Bonner's Ferry, the 280 number. It's at 7:44. I called, or no, maybe I called them. Nope, they called me at 7:44.
Because she's checking on the phone now, right?
Yes, she is looking at her phone, and she is saying, I have a call actually from you guys from dispatch at 7:44. Well, look at what she says dispatch says. At 7:44, and all I could get from them was that medics are there. And I kept saying, is he alive? Is he hit? Medics are there, and they have people looking for a suspect. You guys, this is circumstantial piece number, I think I'm at 2. Because I'm going to kind of combine, the 911 call, getting shot through the window. No, this would be 3. This would be 3. Because the crime scene is 100% number 1. Number 2 is there's no 911 call from her phone. Number 3 is right here at 7:44. If you go and look at the CAD notes, at 7:44, they hadn't even found Brian Drake yet. There was no medics with Brian Drake. Aaliyah Sandlin at 7:41 is being approached by Alan Schleff, and she's like, yeah, we heard gunshot, blah, blah, blah. They don't knock down and kick down that door until 7:54 p.m. So this 7:44 phone call, that is in her phone, that did come from actually Boundary County Sheriff's Office. That could also kind of maybe even go back to a cell phone associated with the Sheriff's Office. But that came from Boundary County, not from Bonner Ferry Police Department. It came from Boundary County, which is different. And at 7:44, they called her. But what she says that they said, that's not possible. There was no the medics did not get with Brian Drake until after 8:10 p.m. 8:10 p.m. So again, everything that she is claiming here, again, these are straight from the transcripts of the phone. Medics are there and they have people looking for a suspect. I said, so they are there like he's alive. All I know is medics are there and they wouldn't tell me anything. And then the next time I talked to them, so then she's saying that she talked to them again. They called me and she caught herself. They called me asking for his cell number. And I remember saying, why do you need his cell number if you're there with him? I don't understand. I'm thinking, what do you mean? That's when Brian's telling her about that. Sergeant says, what did they say about that? Well, she just said the sheriff needs it. The sheriff needs the cell phone number. The fuck? The sheriff wasn't even there. She wouldn't tell me if he was alive or dead. And all I knew in my heart, if you can't get it from him, it means that he can't speak, or they wouldn't tell me why. They just said they just needed his cell number. I thought it was so odd. Medics are there and the sheriff needs his cell number. But yeah, so 7:42, 6:42, then it happened at 7:32. And I tried calling him back again. And I let it go for like 3 seconds and then another 3 seconds. It just kept going straight to voicemail. So I know he was not getting on. Now, boom. Number 4 here. Jennifer Drake does not call her husband back multiple times after the 7:27 phone call. That does not happen. In fact, Jennifer Drake does not try. She tries to call her husband one time at 7:32 and 50 seconds. And guess what? This is the kicker. At 7:32 and 50 seconds, Jennifer Drake is on the phone with Bonner County Dispatch being then patched through to Boundary. So wait, how does Jennifer Drake call her husband's phone if she is in fact on with 911? Well, that's a great question because I don't believe that Jennifer Drake's cell phone was used to make the 911 call. She may have been using a different cell phone, but it definitely wasn't hers. But then with her actual cell phone, she makes that, I don't know if it was a butt down, she didn't mean to, but at 7:32 and 50 seconds, she calls Brian Drake's cell phone, her husband's cell phone. So again, circumstantial. How in the world does Jennifer Drake, if she's on the phone with 911 at 7:32 and 50 seconds with her cell phone, let's see. There you go. 7:32 and 48 seconds. She said 3 seconds. Well, here's is where she gets a little messed up. When she's talking about she did it again, let it happen 3 seconds, 3 seconds. No, Jen. That would be when you did all that at 8:45 and at 8:46. 3 seconds and 3 seconds. You called his regular phone and then you called his work cell. Okay. That's what happened. That's what happened. Again, circumstantial evidence points to, this doesn't look too good. Where am I getting my information with medics and shit like that? Well, straight from the CAD notes. Straight from caddy. So, right here, zooming in. Get a little closer. Keep life flight on standby due to life flight's extended ETA. 809. Medical come in. They will be directed by Alan Schleff to come in the opposite side of the building. They're not even in there yet. That's 8 o'clock. They were staged, and at 8 o'clock, they then proceed to start moving. 809, still not in there yet. When they get in is right about here. They cancel the life flight, and then right here is when they have medics talk about it. And at 8:40, they pump it in and say that this is what they examined. That's coming straight from the CAD notes. Next up, circumstantial piece number 5 would be the interview that took place with Dwayne Fish. Who's Dwayne Fish? Well, Dwayne Fish is a guy that knew the Drakes from church. Him and his wife actually used Dr. Drake as they were patients, but more importantly, they were going to be giving the Drake's kids, 2 boys, the eldest 2 boys, a job that summer and beginning that spring. And the boys had worked the previous Friday, and so they were scheduled to work then that upcoming Friday, as in like the 12th is a Thursday, the 13th would be a Friday. What happens here is number 5. Dwayne Fish stated he received a phone call from Brenner Drake, the Drake's eldest son, in the evening of the 12th of March. Fish believes it was at about 6:50 p.m. as he was pulling into the marina to get onto his boat to journey home. Brenner said that his dad, Brian, had been shot in the leg, and he was not going to be able to work with Fish the next day. Brenner and his brother had been contracted to help Fish during the school breaks at the property. Boom. Wait, 6:50? How could Brenner Drake possibly know that his dad was going to be shot that night? Well, what if his dad was shot before 7:27? Or Brenner Drake just has ESP? I'll tell you how. Here it is. Yes, right here. Jennifer Drake's outgoing calls. Jennifer Drake calls her son. When was that? Well, let's take a look. She makes a phone call to her son at ding, 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 6:56 and 30 seconds. Or I'm sorry, Brenner Drake contacts her at 6:56. Boom. So at 6:56, Brenner Drake talks to his mom. That is when that information could have been passed along, right? And Dwayne Fish saying it was around 6:50. It was probably just after 6:50, right? Well, that is enough, though, that interview, if you were worth a damn in law enforcement, you would say, wait, 6:50? Brian Drake wasn't shot until 7:27, allegedly, right? Well, that's according to Jennifer Drake. That's not according to Lando Riani. Lando Riani says that Brian Drake 100% was shot way before 7:27. And in fact, I think I have it narrowed down to a 10-minute gap, which is between 6:44 and 6:55. Possibly the longest possible, 7:06. But yeah, I'm going to go with my odds. Which then it makes perfect sense that how Brenner could possibly know that his dad was shot. So guess what? All it takes is Dwayne Fish's phone records. His phone records will tell us what time Brenner Drake, in fact, called him to say, hey, I'm not going to be able to come in because my dad was shot. But can you believe that this interview happened a month into the investigation, and these derelicts didn't say, wait, excuse me, you said that Brenner called you at 6:50? No, they just sped right over that and was like, nothing to see here. They didn't go, wait, can we check your phone records? Are you sure that Brenner Drake called you at 6:50? Again, circumstantial pieces, right? Oh, the other weird thing about this is Brenner Drake would be told by his mom later on that evening, hey, make sure you go ahead and call Dwayne Fish and let him know that you're not going to be at work. And he's like, oh, I already did that. So that's in text messages that he already did it. Again, which is highly, supportive of the timeline that he called and did that earlier. And is that the slip up that happened with this case? And will that be something that boom that's where they made a mistake, is Brenner Drake calling Dwayne Fish before 911. And remember, Jennifer Drake called her husband at 6:42, and that was 13 seconds, and he was with patients, and he was going to call her back as soon as they left. Next up here, we have circumstantial piece 6. And that's going to go to a guy by the name of Spencer Van Ling. Now, Spencer Van Ling is the husband of Amber Van Ling. And he told law enforcement that on the night of March 12th, he was home with his wife, Amber, and the children when Jennifer Drake telephoned Amber. This was between 7:30 and 7:40. Now, this did not happen between 7:30 and 7:40. Amber and Jennifer Drake would not talk on the phone until 8:07 p.m. What, Lana? Yeah, 8:07 p.m. So Spencer, sticking with this timeline and trying to say that Jennifer, this was between 7:30 and 7:40, Amber told him, and kids that she was going over to the Drake's home and that Brian had been shot in Bonners Ferry. Well, for the record here, there was a text message that went out and that said, Amber, can you call me ASAP? Amber does not call Jennifer Drake back until 8:07. How do I know that? Phone records. So no, this time frame here, nope. Later, Amber telephoned Spencer Van Ling to tell him that she, Jennifer, along with Jonathan and Radine, they're the pastors of Heart of the City, were driving up to Bonners Ferry. They later turned around and came back after finding out that Brian Drake was shot. Well, no, they actually drove separate cars, but we'll get into all of that. But bottom line is, without a doubt, this did not happen at that time. And what it's going, oh, and by the way, Amber Van Ling, to this day, has never been interviewed. The fuck? The woman who's with Jennifer Drake and who gets in a car and goes up to Bonner's Ferry, attempts to go there, then turns around halfway because they get a phone call that says that Brian Drake is dead. So they're like, okay, we're going to turn around now. The fuck? You don't ever interview this broad? Who are these people? Who? This is Idaho State Police. They don't ever interview Amber, or if they do, let me just put it to you this way. It has never surfaced in the criminal discovery. Wild, right? Crazy. Now, next up. This is this is so wild. This is what, 6, 7, wherever we're on. Somehow in the CAD and in the incident report here done by law enforcement, okay, Jennifer Drake and her information, this phone number is not Jennifer Drake's, but it instead is Amber Van Link's cell phone number. Why would Amber Van Link's cell phone number be attached to Jennifer Lynn Drake's information when you're doing your, this is like the report of everybody that's involved. It would never be like that. Unbelievable. Okay. Circumstantial piece number 8. This is straight from the Cellbrite. Okay. Do you see how this says red, 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 unread? Okay. These would be text messages that were found in Brian Drake's cell phone. What Cellbrite does is they take a phone and they plug it in and they download all the material, and they can tell you what items have ever been viewed and what items haven't been viewed. So in all the police reports, they made it a point, Bonner's Ferry as well as Boundary County, made it a point to say nobody ever touched Brian Drake's cell phone. Period. They made it a point to say it in every single report that they've ever written up. It's rather comical. Well, guess what? Liars! How do you know that? Well, circumstantial piece right here. Brian Drake, this is an incoming text at 5:45. He views it from his wife. He is speaking at Lostology. This would be at 8:16 p.m. Wait a second, 8:16 p.m. on March 12th? Brian Drake's been long gone dead. Like 7:27 dead on the floor, right? So how can Brian Drake open and read, okay, an 8:16 text message? 8:17. Who opened up this man's phone to read these two back-to-back text messages? So much so that the phone was not opened up and read 9:52 and 43, unread. Okay. Wait, who did this? Who did this? Well, that would be either Dave McClellan, Brandon Johnson, or Marty Ryan. Those are your three. 100%. Wait a second. But how is that possible? Well, they just took his phone. And they opened it up. And they viewed it. Or you guys can go with the other option, which is that Brian Drake's still alive. But wait, the body cam shows him dead on the floor. Yeah, he's pretty much dead. Okay, so law enforcement is tampering with evidence. Abso-fucking-lutely. Again, who's going to get called to the stand? The Cellbrite expert. And what are they going to testify to? That Brian Drake's phone, before it was dumped, it was opened up and it was viewed. Well, when? Well, after 8:16, but before 9:52. How do you know? Well, because when we did the Cellbrite dump, it shows us what's viewed, and then we can go through and back and look at the system and see if when his phone was unlocked, when his phone was activated. You can? Absolutely, they can. So, wait, you're telling me that, so Dan Moore didn't do this? Absolutely not. Wait, so, but they arrested Dan Moore because they said that Dan Moore did this and that he killed Brian Drake. Yeah, it's a fucking lie. All of it's a lie. All of this evidence, this is easily, this is like, where was Dan Moore at 8:16 and 8:17 and all the way to 9:52? Well, he was at his house. Okay, so if he had Brian Drake's cell phone, it would then register that that's where the location was that this was opened up and viewed. Absolutely. And does that show that? No. It shows that this was viewed in the far north coffee drive-thru, actually. Moving on, circumstantial piece number 8.
Ooh, we're on number 8.
Number 8. Number 8. Let's see. 17. Maybe I could just keep on going. Okay. Right here. This would be a written report by law enforcement, Brandon Johnson. And right here, after some time, Deputy Schleff escorted the medical team to confirm Drake was deceased. After doing so, they left the building. The medics who entered the room were John Minden, Pam Hamilton, Michaela Burt. I watched the medics as they inspected Drake's body, and at no time did they move or adjust his body to perform their evaluations. After the medics left, Detective Dave McClellan entered the office without a body cam being worn by anybody, mind you. I watched as Dave McClellan looked at the crime scene, and at no time did he move or touch anything. So this would be after 8:10 p.m. Correct. So wait, when was those text messages coming through? So it was Dave McClellan that went back in there to swap back out Drake's phone? Abso-fucking-lutely. Again, Dave McClellan is part of the Boundary County Sheriff's Department. Was Dave McClellan the person that Jennifer Drake was speaking to at 7:44? My money is all in 100 yes. Now, after Detective McClellan was finished, finished doing what? Go in there and observe what? Do what? Who told him to go in there? Oh, none other than Marty motherfucking Ryan. So after Detective McClellan was finished, we both exited the office building. After exiting, I posted up at the southwest corner of the building where I could see both the southeast and northwest entrances, and he was relieved of his duty. Roughly around midnight. That's Brandon. Now, let's take a look. This is for me just to bust balls with Marty Ryan. Here you go. At approximately, he would say 8, I was contacted via landline by BFPD, which would be Bonners Ferry Police Department, Sergeant Cowell. Remember, you guys saw it in the body cam. Brandon Johnson calls up Willie Cowell first. Willie Cowell now, according to Marty Ryan, is saying this is who contacted me. And that was approximately at 8, which is accurate. It wasn't until I was able to get the body cams that I could actually prove this, because he was called at this time by Sergeant Cowell, Willie Cowell. But he wasn't dispatched until 8:59, according to the logs. And when I say dispatch, that's the first time he actually used the radio. So he was advised a shooting had occurred this evening. Okay. I was successful in making landline contact with Boundary County Sheriff's Office, Detective McClellan. How the fuck did you do that? You called them up on landline. You know what that means, guys? That means cell phone to cell phone. That's what landline means. And here he calls up good old Detective McClellan and says, who he claims who was at the scene of the incident. Wait a second. Excuse me? Why was he there? He was never dispatched. There was 4 people that were dispatched. 4. 3 Boundary County Sheriff's people, and then 1 Bonner Ferry police officer. McClellan just shows up. And in fact, I have body cam of him. And you guys can see what type of clothes he's in. So, here it is. Who was at the scene of the incident? I inquired if a crime scene had been established. Excuse me? You mean if a perimeter had been established? The fuck are you talking about? I inquired if a crime scene had been established. I mean, who? This is how Marty Ryan writes. He replied that they were doing so at that moment. I asked if all persons were being kept out of the crime scene as to secure any possible evidence present. He replied that the immediate crime scene area had been secured under the control and watch of Brandon Johnson. I then requested he enter the crime scene, do a quick walkthrough, and report back to me any immediate discoveries and his opinion. So this is how I believe Brian Drake's cell phone was then put next to his head, and whatever was next to his head, that phone was then removed, and this cell phone was put there. It was definitely moved. It was definitely rummaged through. Any expert would get on the stand and show you that with the coordinates, the GPS coordinates of Drake's cell phone through his email. That's how I did it, and I'm not even an expert. Next, let's just go in there and tell me what you see. What the fuck are you talking about, dude? Within a few minutes, Detective McClellan called me back. So, okay. He stated that a male subject later confirmed to be 45-year-old Brian Drake of Hayden, Idaho, was laying on the floor. Wait, everybody knew it was Brian Drake. He had business cards out. It was Brian Drake. What are you talking about? Later figured this out. Everybody knew this. So if Dave McClellan didn't know this, then did Dave McClellan ever go in there? Or are you just inserting the fact that he went there to take it off of your dick and what you did? So that's interesting that Dave McClellan wouldn't know immediately because everybody was shouting on the body cams that they knew it was Brian Drake and they knew that it was chiropractor. So he could observe no bullet wound or cause of death. But Drake had been confirmed deceased by responding medics. Yeah, only after they just waited to go in there for fucking, I don't even know how many minutes, 25. From immediate examination, it appeared a bullet had been fired from an unknown weapon, unknown suspect, from outside the office, through the office window, and had been the cause of Drake's demise. All right, Stella. McClellan confirmed that no one had moved the body of the victim. Look at them. Look at them going so hard that nobody moved this body, that nobody touched anything, but it's the complete opposite. Nobody had moved the body, nor had anyone disturbed anything within the office space. Now, I showed you guys a little foam or a little plastic box that had that deep blue completely moved. A Brian Drake's body, if falling out of a stool, wouldn't have been landed where it was. How do your legs get underneath a desk like that? How do you still have that little leg whoopy thing on? Okay. And who would ever sit down with that? Get out of here. McClellan vacated the building, taking with him Officer Johnson. Officer Johnson was now posted outside. Now, there you go. And here you go. Now, this is even funnier. My first contact was with Boundary County Sheriff Dave Kramer. He briefed me on what he knew of the incident. Excuse me? He wasn't even there. What time? I mean, he wasn't there yet. Okay, so what are you talking about? Was this before or after you interviewed Isaac Funderburg while you were tipsy as a motherfucker? Just curious. So anyways, we're just going to hear more BS about all of this stuff. And again, this is Marty Ryan here saying that I walked the alleyway between the south wall of the office building and the north wall, far north coffee lounge. One window was emitting light, and the light within this room was on. This was later determined to be the office of chiropractor and victim Drake. As I stopped at this window, I could see it was a double-pane window. A clear bullet entry hole could be seen in the glass going through both panes, damaging and disrupting the closed blinds within. I was also able to have a broken view into the room through the blinds. I could observe victim Drake lying on the floor. Did you have a body cam on? No. Now, hold on a second. Why does Drake's last victim, or I'm sorry, last patient, Elora Gatel, seem to be sorely mistaken then? Let's see. Good old Elora. Oh, I wish I had Eldora's thing. I could print it off, but Eldora says that the blinds were open. You know, she noticed that the blinds were open. She thought it was weird. So,
there's that for you. Elora said the blinds were open, that it was unusual because she was going to be laying in there getting worked on.
Eldora didn't want to be seen like that. Eldora was like, no. All right, moving on with more Jennifer Drake problems here.
What number?
Number 9.
Ooh, nice.
Here we go. Here it is. Okay, let's take a look here. Tammy, I interviewed Funderburg's girlfriend as an initial canvassing activity, but she only told me what her boyfriend told her. She was interviewed the next day by ISP investigators. I did not have my recorder and took no notes. Dave J. McClellan. Wait, excuse me? No way. That can't be true. That can't be accurate. No way. Are you sure about that? Well, then we have a huge old problem here. Because good old Marty motherfucking Ryan says, I was told Funderburg's live-in girlfriend, unknown name at the time of writing this report, was also a witness. I requested Dave McClellan go to their residence and acquire a recorded statement from her prior to Funderburg returning home because Marty Ryan was just interviewing him. And it was Venezuela's body-worn recorder that got that. This was done. See Detective McClellan's report for further. Dave McClellan has no report in this case. None. Excuse me? Yeah, but Marty Ryan says that it was done. This was done. See Detective McClellan's report for further. Well, this email was wrote, and here's Dave McClellan saying, Tammy, I interviewed that girl. I didn't have my notebook. I had no body cam. I took no notes. I don't have anything. And all she was saying was what the boy was saying. Okay. Hell of a job here. Hell of a job. Now, check this out. Detective Caleb Watts, who was a patient of Dr. Drake's, he would go over, allegedly, according to Marty Ryan, the next morning and go see Aaliyah Sandlin. As the morning proceeded, I met with Boundary County Sheriff's Office Detective Watts. He was holding a printout made of 3 still shots of Hartman from the evening prior. These had been acquired from the Kootenai River Inn, and Hartman was their first suspect. From video of Hartman walking through the casino in his dark clothes, with his hood both up and down. This was the evening of the incident, the night before. Watts stated that he had just recently been talking with the female girlfriend of Witt, female witness, girlfriend of Witt, Funderburg. Those are witnesses. While speaking with the female witness, he was inadvertently holding that particular printout in his hand. The female witness saw the printout and exclaimed, "That's the guy I saw. That's the guy I saw." I have personally talked to Aaliyah Sandlin, and she said that is not what the fuck happened. That's not what happened at all. She knows Caleb Watts. She said, that's when it came to my house in the morning. They had to come two different times. And she said it was Marty Ryan. And that she told them that that's the guy that came 30 minutes after. I said, 30 minutes after? She said, yes. I told them that that's the guy and he had nothing to do with this, or she didn't think, because he arrived 30 minutes later. I said, 30 minutes later? Well, that's interesting because I believed that was all much later too. 30 minutes later from 7:34, that's backing up to 7. I said, so you think that that guy came? She's like, I know that guy came at least 30 minutes afterwards. And then she tells me that her and Isaac went together to Super One grocery store. Isaac didn't go by himself. I said, excuse me? I said, do you want to hear your statements? Are you sure? Maybe this will jog your memory. And she most certainly said that she was shown photo lineups that next day, and the police told her that she identified Dr. Moore. I said, who? Dr. Moore, like the next day? I said, well, the police were saying that you identified Stephen Hartman, and that's how they were able to get a search warrant for the whole fucking everything, his truck, his everything. She said, what? I was like, yeah, they're ready to arrest him for the murder. She's like, well, no, that is not who I saw. I said, and why is your boyfriend, Isaac Thunderbird, identifying somebody with a dark complexion, and you're identifying like a 60-year-old man? She said, what? He identified like a little, like, I was like, yeah, a little dark complected dude. What? She's like, what? I was like, yeah, you guys totally don't have any of the same, like, if you're saying that he's a white dude and this Isaac is over here saying it was a, almost like a Native American with like a goatee and had all black on with a silver vest. I'll decide to release that one day. Then, let's see. So this is how they obtained that search warrant. What a bunch of fucking, this is all lies, man. That's not, she didn't ever say that Stephen Hartman dude had anything to do with anything. He was not the guy that was seen coming around the corner from the bushes or the building or the fence area. No. No. Later this day, I appeared several times before the Honorable Judge Julian. Probable cause was found, and search warrants were issued ordering myself and associate law enforcement to search the hotel room of 210 at the Kootenai River Inn and the vehicle belonging to Hartman. They got all of this shit on fucking lies for Stephen Hartman. So you guys want to say how did Dr. Moore get picked up in all of this? Because Mike Van Leuven said that a gas leak was in fact not a gas leak, and it was a gas leak that happened just a couple of days after this homicide, and it was Dr. Moore trying to commit suicide because he just was so choked up about taking the life of Drake. The fuck are you talking about? You guys say that to yourselves. But here, take a look. You don't believe me? This is what they did with the other guy. Officer building located at administrative records. They took the 2 cell phones belonging to Hartman in possession and a warrant. These warrants were served. See property procedure the same. After completion of detention, there's the FBI interview. I go ahead and this case is now being forwarded to ISP for follow-up. So this is the last thing that Chief Marty Ryan did before he was passing it all over. And this is how I realized that all this time was off. Um, let's take a look here. Oh yes, here, Eldora. Eldorsky. All right, so Elora Gatel. Okay. Eldorsky. Here's her statements. Eldora. Now remember what Jennifer Drake said? Jennifer Drake said this was a last minute appointment, and that Eldora was told that it was at the end of the day and there was nobody else. I have the text messages. That's not what happened at all. Now, Eldora, I sent a text message the day prior, so Wednesday. That's always how we set appointments. Do you have any openings? That's what she said. He was pretty booked, so we didn't expect to get in. So I just told him, well, Monday would be fine, but it would be good if we could come in, if that works. Went to the airport to pick up my niece. Took our time on the way back. Kind of later in the day, mid-afternoon, maybe 3 or so, I got a text message saying, how's about 6 o'clock? That's it. That's exactly what it was. End of the day is going to squeeze us in anyways, so I said, okay, sure, we'll take it. We came back. Of course, Sonia wasn't feeling well, so she stayed home. That's her niece that she picked up from the airport. And Kakoa and I went to the appointment. We got there at 6:03, and we noticed that because I made a comment in the car, 6:03, Doc, we're almost there. I confirmed this with surveillance cameras. 100%, this crazy broad, 6:03, in some seconds, you see her Honda Pilot cruising on up, about to be at Drake's. Fact. We pull up, and there's pretty much no cars there except for a large light color. I want to say it was a white pickup truck, but a heavy-duty work pickup truck. And I'm pretty sure it was a Ford pickup truck because to the right, the doctor's car was parked right next to the building. I parked right next to him. Empty spot, pickup truck. Well, damn, girl. Okay, girl, okay. Eldora Gatel. We go into our appointment. He had another patient in there, so we sat in the waiting room right here. It's a big burly guy, okay? I did notice that the window shade was wide open. Imagine that. So Elora Gatel, she slips up and she notices that the blinds were wide open. So the blinds weren't shut. She's the one that had the appointment with him. So, anyways, I had a videotape going, or the video camera going, and so he played a song. We went in, had our appointment. I was first, and I did notice that the window shade was wide open, which to me was unusual. He usually always kind of closes the window shade, especially when it's dark. So I thought that was kind of odd, but I didn't say anything. I figured just the three of us in there, no big deal. Eldorsky.
Wasn't that language always kind of sometimes what?
So Eldora says that the blinds were open. So therefore, Dr. Moore is saying that the blinds were closed and he just shot through them. Totally false. Brian Drake sitting down in a stool and the stool being so low that the trajectory of everything, not possible. No shards of glass, just the crime scene. And then how do you have all that dirt and shit on your back? Well, because you're actually shot outside and you were in the brush. Okay. and then either you stumbled back, to try to get back inside on your own. So maybe it's your phone. Who the fuck knows? As it just was running because, somebody else pressed the call. But again, because this happened way before the 717 call. And when I say way, it's just 20, 25 minutes. But let's take a look at Elora Gatel. Now remember, in Eldora's statements, she's blaming Jennifer Drake. And Jennifer Drake, in her second round with the police, she wanted to call because of Elora, because she says, something's up with this girl. I think maybe she was just infatuated with Brian, and that her husband had enough of it, and that he just went up there and shot him.
Yeah.
Because he was tired of hearing about Brian Drake and how awesome he was. Elora and Brian were exchanging I love yous in text messages. Here it is though. I figured just the three of us in there, no big deal. Okay. I had my appointment, and just before he had his appointment, the phone rang, and it was his wife. First of all, there is no appointment for that man. The phone rang, and it was his wife. So he was sitting at his desk, which, if this is his desk, the window's right behind him. Why is Elora Gatel talking like that? Like, he's sitting here, so he was sitting in his desk when he picked up the phone at 6:42 and some seconds to say, hey, yeah, wifey poo for 13 seconds. Yep, I'm still with the patients, right? Now, he talked a little bit with his wife and then got started on Cocoa. Am I missing anything? She says. We had our appointment. Okay, and then that was it. So we left after 7:15. Now, isn't that kind of weird that she would just randomly say the time 7:15 and how that would just stick with her? Okay? Because 7:15 is the exact time that Brian's phone calls Jennifer Drake's phone. Or, I'm sorry, it's 7:17. That's when that phone call happens. But she's saying that she left, 7:15. Got in the car. Didn't notice any vehicles at that point because it was just dark out. I backed up my car because I was parked forward like this. So I backed up my car and I could take a straight shot and just drive between the doctor's office and the coffee shop. And I halfway thought of it, except there was a big pickup truck spotted right there. And I knew the truck was on because the running lights were on, but the brake lights weren't on. So it's not like somebody was stopped with their foot on the brake. Are you kidding me right now? Who? What? Elora, you need to be in law enforcement, girl, with this memory. Eldorsky. Now, anyways, I noticed the truck right there, and I thought, well, even if I try to go that way, I can't get around him to go around that to the building. So I guess I'll just turn left and went between the Far North Outfitters building and the T-shirt shop, the other way through the parking lot, and just went out that way. Thank you, Elora. Thank you for saying all of that like that, because that's just priceless. Elora tried to explain to the police that she thought that was the guy that was still there before, and tried to say that this burly, motherfucker was hanging around and taking out Drake. She says, let's see. I'm just trying to remember. Yeah, we stopped at the grocery store because she needed something at the store. So we were texting, so you know that we were at the grocery store at 7:28 because we have text messages. What do you need? That kind of thing. It wasn't until the next day in the evening, I got a call about 7:30 or so, maybe a little later. I could look at my notes. A friend of mine, Mary Vogelweed. She's just going at it. Now, Eldorsky and Hutch over here. Now, moving on. Eldorsky. This is what it looked like. Okay, look it. And then miraculously, it would just be moved. this is a closer up. Take a look at that, right? Outdoor ski. And here, now, here are our dog walkers. See the dog walkers? 1921 hours, but this is off. So it is, this was at the 6:21 and 23 seconds. Okay. Now I have here at, again, 6:16 and 46 seconds. Bonners Ferry, there's a police. Okay. Let me see what else. To show some of my, here we go. Because I have a bombshell coming.
Wow.
I'm about to drop it. DVR time off by 1 hour. DVR time. So if it's a 2000 is a really time is 19, so 7. So at 19:45 and 17 seconds, a red car out of El Paso. And then I was able to, 19:45, there was an ambulance. The car leaves at 95. Now, Ridgeline crosses El Paso south. 1946 and 6 seconds. 1948 and 57 seconds. Ridgeline crosses El Paso northbound. 1949 and 51 seconds. There's the Sheriff County SUV. All right, look at 1948 and 57 seconds, Ridgeline. 1949 and 51 seconds, the Sheriff County SUV. 1952 and 14 seconds, silver truck turns towards Drake's from coming down El Paso. 1952 and 54 seconds, fast car, dark car, leaving Drake's area to Tyler. Looks like it might have caught air crossing over El Paso. Okay. 1953 and 11 seconds. So this would be at 6:53. Okay. This is what it says, but really, remember, the stuff it's off. Then silver truck leaves Drake's area to 95 northbound. Dark car returns to El Paso, then turns on 95. Silver car enters insurance building lot at 20:28:30. So that's really 7:28 and 30 seconds. And now this would be when this is Isaac Funderburg's little hatchback piece of shit car, okay? 20:29 and 41, silver car turns around in Moore's front lot. 20:30:32, silver car back through Allstate down El Paso. 1952, 54, fast dark car leaving Drake's area to Tyler. Looks like it might have caught air crossing El Paso, turning around in Moore's back lot. And then that car, dark car, then returns to El Paso, then north on 95. And this would be the 6:52 and 54 seconds. This vehicle, okay, looks like it's coming out of Drake's. It looks like it caught air. And it is a dark, like sedan looking car that I thought it could be a Honda Accord looking thing. All right. Kind of could be like a Honda Civic, things like that. Now, I found the owner of the Ridgeline.
You said
I was working really, really hard to find the owner of the Ridgeline,
and that's true.
and I finally did it. And so I'm going to share with you the owner of the Ridgeline. Finally, these dipshits went ISP. On May 6th, 2020, Idaho State Police Detective Sean Prosser, along with Idaho State Police Detective Gary Tolson, conducted a door-to-door canvass of Van Buren Street, Harrison Street, Fresno Street, Hillside Alley, and a portion of El Paso Street on the east side of US 95 and Bonners Ferry. The canvass was conducted as part of Brian Drake's homicide investigation. Wait, Brian Drake was murdered on March 12th, 2020, and you guys are just now doing a canvassing of that area on May 6th, 2020. 2 months later. The fuck out of here! What the fuck is going? Okay, stop. So, this is a 15-page report, and I'm flipping through it, and it has 20. Count it out, Lana. 20 people on here. 20 people on here. And it is people that literally they drove up and down this area and they were writing down the makes and models of these vehicles. So they said, the following is a summary of the canvas. At this address of Van Buren Street, this person and this person, they were home on the 12th. They did not hear or see anyone. They became aware of the incident after they saw police emergency lights, and their daughter called to tell them to stay inside as police were looking for a man with a gun. That wasn't out then. They did not know Drake. So we're going through this, and I'm like, and so they're listing these license plates and the make of these cars. So like this license plate says a white Ford F-150 with canopy, a green Ford Fiesta, a no vehicle registered. There was a car sitting there that had no vehicle registration. Okay, this is back in the Aspen Apartments. Aspen Apartments over here. And then again, no vehicle registered. So we have people back there that just don't have cars. Then we get to some more Aspen Apartment people. And here is a gray Toyota Camry four-door. Then we see a tan Hyundai Elantra four-door. If I hear one more thing about an Elantra. As I'm looking through, I see a Plymouth Neon four-door. And then I see a black Chrysler Pacifica. Then I get to the daddy of all daddies. I get to a white Hyundai Elantra. No, I'm kidding, but I did come across a white Hyundai Elantra. I come to a silver Honda Ridgeline. Sure, yeah, I did. I said, oh, hell to the gnaw. What the F is going on? I said, silver. I said, that's interesting. It looks white, but hey, silver, white this is the Honda Ridgeline. This is the one I'm looking for. And no shit, it belongs on Harrison Street. Harrison Street is the street where Dr. Moore's office is, also where Mick lives. I was looking for this Honda Ridgeline. I found this Honda Ridgeline because that Honda Ridgeline is literally, gets better, literally 1946. So this is, remember, because this is all messed up. So 6:46 p.m. And then it came back. I'm like, what is this car doing? 6:48 and 57 seconds. Now come to find out, the owner of it, I know who the owner is now, living over there, but one better. This owner, they work at the glass shop.
No kidding.
Wait, what? Yes. Say it ain't so, Joe. Came across, but I said to myself, okay, wait a second. If this car is leaving, they work at the glass shop, look at Ridgeline crosses El Paso south. Then at 19:48 and 57 seconds, so basically 3 minutes later, crosses El Paso northbound. And it's like, it's coming back. It's like it went to its house, and now you're going to leave the house, you know, and comes back across to go back over into that area where Drake's is. Yeah, the glass shop is right next door to Drake's. Okay. Now, this caught me. And I said, interesting. These two people that live there were asked, do you know Dr. Drake? And did you hear or see anything?
Well,
Well, I would think that somebody that would work at the glass door place, that would be, that Drake used to be in that area because he had that little hut thing where all the wood shopping, that little hut. Drake used that. And so you're going to sit here and tell me that the guy that has worked countless years in the Bonners Ferry glass shop does not know who Dr. Drake is?
yeah.
They do not know Drake, and they heard or saw nothing. I find that hard to believe. So much so that I actually have your vehicle coming back and forth. So there's that. Now, so there's that. But the question is they own two vehicles. Who drives what vehicle? There's also a blue Chevy. What is it, like a 350 pickup? Now, another thing I thought was weird. El Paso Street, 6778 El Paso Street. This guy moved to Bonners Ferry from Florida via North Dakota.
Wow.
He was looking after his sick parents' house. He did not know Drake, and he heard or saw nothing. This would be in the house that overlooks, allegedly, the house with the balcony. The house that was owned by Short, the Butch, the guy from the coffee shop place. So again, thought that was interesting because in 2019, this person's dad died. So he said after his sick parents' house, it's interesting because the dad was dead at that point. So it was interesting that he was saying that he was still looking at over a house that his parents weren't sick; they were dead. The dad was dead, and just had died 6 months before the shooting. Which for this questioning would have been like close to a year. Then we get to David Wiley. Again, they were just driving around, literally finding every car and writing down the license plate, writing down who it belonged to, and then trying to, talk to them. But I came across this name, and the reason that I thought it was interesting is because when you Google that name, that's the name that's associated with the Bonners Ferry train accident.
Mm-hmm.
And it was alleged that this guy jumped in front of a train, David Wiley. Yes. Bobby Gode's son. Bobby Gode, the same guy that was seen on cameras at Liberty. Yeah, driving around there. So, a rumor that this guy jumped in front of a train. At the time, he had a silver Hyundai Accent 2-door hatchback registered to David Wiley. Again, Google that name, and that's going to come back to in 2021. So then the next year, this guy is involved in a quote unquote
human versus
train
accident.
So I want to take a little closer look at that. At that train accident. Also, not a single fucking person during their canvass, not a single person said that they knew Dr. Drake. You understand that? Nobody said that they were a patient. Nobody said that they even knew that this man existed. And everybody said that they heard nothing. Every single person that they interviewed in this May 6th, 2020, so 2 months later, this canvas report, when they walked around to gather all of these. And so I said to myself, I think I know why they went and did this. They were tracking all the cars, just like how I was tracking all the cars that were all circling around. And they wanted to see who these cars belonged to because of all the times surrounding, this shooting. That's why they did what they did. Because they had access to the coffee shop cameras. And the police put it out there that there were no cameras from the coffee shop. That is 100% a lie. There was 8 to 10 clips. I know for a fact ISP had them. And I know for a fact they verbatim took notes on one of the clips that was inside the coffee, like a camera that was inside, and made notes about it. They told Jennifer Drake that those cameras didn't work. They were just for show. And then ISP told Jennifer Drake that. And ISP nor Marty Ryan has ever had those cameras surface that were the coffee shop that was right next to Drake's. There was 12 to 16 cameras. 12 to 16 cameras. Not like 1 or 2 or 3, 12 to 16 cameras.
So the whole time we thought that the gun store, we thought it was odd, right?
Yeah.
That the gun store didn't have cameras. And even Jennifer Drake thought that was odd. So once again, if Jennifer Drake, if anyone talks to her and wants her to get the facts, those cameras work, Miss Drake.
Yeah, and those cameras, the clips of them were sent to people. And that's how they still exist. I do my homework. And now let's ask ourselves one question here. Why would ISP go and bury those cameras?
That's the question I was going to say.
Why would ISP act like those cameras don't exist?
Truly.
Is it because that time frame's not that time frame? Is it because you can see Isaac Funderburg's car going through at a certain time?
You can see the killer.
Is it because, wait a second, how come in an interview that took place the same day as Jennifer Drake on it's 2 days before, March 24th. So perfect. On March 24th, there was a guy that was questioned. And he was questioned because somebody in the community, actually multiple people in the community, came forward and gave anonymous tips that said that Brian Drake was fucking their ex-wife. Well, at the time, wife, but then at the time, now ex-wife. And nobody in all of the interviews that I've listened to, which I've listened to them all, not a single person was ever shown a picture during an interview and said, and handed a picture and said, here, look at this, who is that? Normally, you would then have to memorialize what you showed that person and put it in your report and connect that in with your report to say, this is the picture that I had shown them, that they had, commented that, yeah, that's, so-and-so. So this picture was a picture of Jennifer Drake. And this picture was shown to somebody on March 24th, 2020. And they said, do you recognize this person? And this person says, yeah, I think that's that's Drake's wife. I saw her like once, and Yeah, I mean, and I think he even makes a comment like, she looks better than that. That's not like a good picture. Like, that's not a picture that,
It's not a flattering.
it's not a flattering picture. So I want to know what picture was shown to this guy.
And why?
And why. Was it because it wouldn't be till March 26th that then Van Leuven tells Drake, Jennifer, hey, those cameras don't work. They didn't have anything. They're just for show. I want to know if what picture this guy was shown and why he would be showing this guy Jennifer Drake's picture. This guy identified from the picture Jennifer Drake. Why are you showing Jennifer Drake's picture to, I mean, what the fuck? What does that even matter? And it was because he was describing, what was it? A time that Jennifer Drake and her husband were at Silverwood in 2017. I mean, just what the fuck? Anyways, that's the investigation that they put together. This is just complete and utter crap. Let's see. There's Isaac's vehicle. It would be 5:43. Just driving around. So what's your take on Isaac's story? I think Isaac's 19 years old and a fucking burnout.
Well, he's a daddy too,
Yeah.
Can you be a burnout and being a daddy? Better shape
Yeah.
up.
I mean, it's just.
Better shape up.
I think that Isaac's just repeating everything that he kind of did, But when they want to talk to him about like timestamps and stuff like that, no. Nope. What the fuck is it? Oh, there it is. There's Aldora's vehicle. No, these cops, they all need to be fired. Fired, I tell you, absolutely fired. This report changes everything. They hid this, the ballistics, that right there, saying that it is 100%. It could have come from a 9mm as well. And Let's see, this is Brian Drake. Keeping track of what kind of pills he was receiving and what type of bottles he was receiving from people. Look at that. What a fucking moron. 8 blues, 1 bottle, 2. This is all the times this guy was seeing him. Doesn't pay for any visits, and instead he's just getting drugs, getting steroids.
Harden.
What else? I believe that 6:43 phone call. Shit went down. That was like. What was it? Oh, there it is. Cover this up. Boom! I found it, you motherfuckers! Honda Ridgeline, come get some, bitches! Can't believe it. I can't believe it. I literally cannot believe it. That's such tits. There is literally no evidence against Dr. Moore. None. Absolutely none. Brian Drake was not shot for that window. Everything that he's just saying yeah to, and okay, yep, sure, this is, yep, I did this, I did that, and I shot from my ankles, or, the fuck. No. I was able to track that. So much rumors. This is so-called crazy. Yeah, people think that Dr. Moore helped Mick Millett move the body. Just so you guys know that Mick Millett didn't even get to move the body.
And they made sure in the PCA.
Yeah, it's all in there.
They covered them because they covered their own butts really big with the PCA. They barely let Mick even touch it.
Yeah, so put that just to bed. Anybody thinking that, oh, well, Mick Millett was the coroner and Dr. Moore helped him move the body. Mick Millett didn't even move Dr. Drake's body. ISP did the transporting.
And it didn't go, and it went to Spokane.
And it went to Spokane. It always goes to Spokane. And, I don't know how in the courtroom you're going to be able to have the medical examiner explain why Brian Drake's sweater has dirt all over the back of it. And
he's missing glass shards.
Yeah.
But the seat that he was sitting on is filled with glass debris.
There is no glass shards in anything. There's nothing. This man was not shot through the window. I don't care who killed this man. This man was not shot through the window. And that is going to crush Jennifer Drake's story. Jennifer Drake is the one that put that out there, and so did law enforcement. Okay? Who knew about that ruse? Well, law enforcement and Jennifer Drake. How did Jennifer Drake even know to say that to the 911 caller? And what I mean by that is Brian Drake didn't say that to her, because Brian Drake was not shot through the fucking window. Therefore, you wouldn't say that. So here, Jennifer Drake at 7:29, 7:30 p.m., her story to 911 is that, yeah, he told me, ow, something hit me. Somebody just shot me through the window. Excuse me? There's no coming back from that. Brian Drake's height next to and sitting on that stool, if in fact anybody was to shoot at that window, they would have hit that man in the head. Okay, I hate to break it all down. Also, the trajectory would have been, it's impossible to shoot upward like this, because then the bullet, then it's not even going to hit the guy. So the only way you can strike him where it would be hitting him back where this was, and it'd be an upward angle, it's impossible if you're up against the wall and your back is not visible to the window. It's up. It would be up against the wall portion of it where it's not the window. That's why law enforcement had to say he was leaning over, making then his back accessible, because they knew that this man sitting in this stool is, if he leans forward. Okay, so if he leans forward, then what? Your trajectory, your angle, and it's in the autopsy. There's no getting around this. There is no getting around this. And for this to be put out there for this long, that this man was shot through a fucking window. Brian Drake was not shot through any fucking window. It's not scientifically possible with his wound, nor is the crime scene indicative of that. How does Brian Drake then go and get dirt all over his back? No. And then why is Brian Drake's phone moving after he's laying dead on the ground, just after 7:27? Here's another one. Brian Drake had 3 phones. Well, guess what? Why don't you guys go ask law enforcement where that third phone is? They said they put it through and had it extracted. That third phone in the extraction is nowhere to be found. That means, like, in Discovery, how like Ann Taylor would have to do, like, here's a supplemental Discovery request. Hey, you guys said there's this third phone and then you guys extracted the data. So we need this. And then you would, here, sorry, I don't know how it didn't get attached. And then you would attach it and send it on over. Well, don't you think it would behoove Dr. Moore's attorneys to get that fucking shit? They need to go and get that third phone and the extraction of that third phone. That is not in evidence. But there's evidence within the evidence that you have right now that says that took place and it was put into evidence, so you need to go get it. And you need to go get it now. It would behoove you to do that. Next is something else that would behoove you to go and do if you were the defense of Dan Moore is
behoove everybody to do something.
Elora Gatel said that she was visited by Bobby Goad. Why the fuck would Elora Gatel be visited by Bobby Goad?
Tell everybody who Bobby Goad is, though.
Bobby Goad is, he's retired now. He just retired. He worked as a deputy for the sheriff's office.
You can't be serious.
He was seen on the night of the murder driving his Boundary County SUV, pulls into Liberty gas station, is seen there on camera, then goes the back way down El Paso and then makes a turn, and he is literally in the back alley of Drake's. Okay. The fuck? Wait, what? And then so wouldn't it behoove somebody if this man, Elora Gatel, says, it was so nice to have Bobby Goad come out and visit with me. Well, why is it that Jennifer Drake in her interview says that she's under the impression on March 16th that Elora Gatel already been visited by law enforcement? Well, I have all the paperwork. Elora Gatel was not visited until March 19th. Au contraire, she was by Bobby Goad. Where is that fucking report? Bobby Goad, why would you go to Elora Gatel? How do you even know her? The fuck out of here. So Elora Gatel was like, oh, it was so nice that you guys sent Bobby Goad out. She just like slips up. So you need to go get that. You need to know why Bobby Goad would be going and talking to Elora Gatel, who was saying that the blinds were opened.
Because do we have anything from Bobby Goad, like, you know, in the Discovery or anything that we've ever seen where Bobby Goad is?
I'm putting Elora Gatel, due to her car not coming down with the pilot and then followed by that truck. She literally is there until 7:15, 7:16. I'm sorry, I have Brian Drake already being attacked and shot. As does Aaliyah Sandelin, who said that 30 minutes before 7:30 was when she heard the shot, which would be 7 o'clock.
Exactly. She
Okay.
does say that. And she's adamant about
that. And that matches with
it matches with the footage
of when Steve Hartman arrives at 7:30, and then he's seen on the Liberty at 7:34. Again, this is all. So what I'm trying to say here is that Elora Gatel and her brother, and I believe the niece, because I question if she really truly didn't stay home because she wasn't feeling well. It's just interesting, but hey, maybe she did. But Elora Gatel is there. So unless Elora Gatel was, taking a shit in the bathroom,
what?
And it's crazy. This is crazy because she's there when Brian Drake is being murdered. Like, hands down. She's there. Without a doubt. And then the truck that was there as well leaves and is right, following her right behind it. And then the police cruiser that was basically watching, playing watch out. I got him cruising on out of there, the Bonners Ferry cruiser, who I believe is Brandon Johnson, but it could be Marty Ryan. I can tell you what all of this points to.
Corruption.
That it's not Dan Moore. It's not Dan Moore. And their motive is that Dr. Drake stole 30 patients. 30 patients. I'm sorry. And the list that they gave for the 30 patients, these people last saw Dr. Moore in like 2013, 2015, 2010. Hadn't seen a chiropractor in like 7 years. Who was your last chiropractor? Oh, Dr. Moore. When did you last see him? 2012. This is 2020 murder. And then there's, so this list of the 30 patients, I about fell over. There's 2 people on that list, 2, that would have seen like Dr. Moore like 3 weeks ago, or and then how do we know that they're not doctor shopping? Like, hey, I came here to see, I don't know, did they give cheaper visits?
Or like their free visit, the first time visit, and they did different techniques.
Yeah, they did. So there's no way to sit here and say, and then you have to ask these people. You're going to call these people to the stand and say, why did you not go back to doc? Did you have an issue with Dr. Moore? No. Somebody, and then if a friend referred me because I hadn't been to the chiropractor in a month, oh, go see it's the new guy in town. So that's why I went. Or my friend that is referring me to go there, she has a deal and a trade with him that she's trying to push down my people's throats to go see him. So it's just, but these 30 patients, I feel bad for these people if they have to take the stand, because they're going to be like, wait, well, I'm involved in this? They don't even probably know. They don't even probably know yet. I know, but they don't even probably know who they are. If they were told, but how about the police doing this? How about this? You say you went through all this shit and you didn't come across a guy by the name of, let's say, Mr. D, and to see that Mr. D had all of his text messages deleted by Drake, and that Mr. D was literally supplying drugs, and the trade was steroids and pills for free visits.
Yeah, how is that not motive?
How are you not seeing that someone is writing in a text message and saying, yo, dude, I can't leave the shit in your car because there's a cop sitting right next to your car. And Drake's just like, oh, okay, yeah. Not like, wait, what? There's a cop? Like, just, okay.
Come back tomorrow.
Okay, I guess next week.
I'm not saying it is motive, but why couldn't that be motive if stealing patients is motive? You know, and
we're talking about Drake, who's unlocking his vehicle so that this guy who's a patient of his can swing by and put the steroids in the needles, and I mean, that's what they're talking about, and the bottles of pills, put it underneath the front seat, and then lock the door, close it, and then get out of there. Mm-hmm. And then you got Drake asking him the next week, hey man, do these things really make you sweat? And like, you're just like, all like, you feel so hot when you're going out. And he's like, oh God, yeah, all the time. And I was at the bar and I was just sweating like a pig. Like, this is their conversation. And then he's like, hey, are you all good with your gear? Do you need me to bring you anything? Like, what do you need? And then he's tracking on his forms, because this is how I can tell you Drake's such a tightwad. If he ever did do work on you, he would mark it. He's not gonna not mark that shit. You're not getting no freebies. He was then marking his patient intake forms in writing down 6 TPs, 3 blues, 2 general blues, 8 blues, and 1 bottle. He's then tracking the drugs on his patient form as payment.
As barter, yeah.
And you don't think to interview this motherfucker? This guy was never interviewed. There's dead bodies around this guy. And then Elora Gatel just gets back from Mexico. Now, why would Elora Gatel kill or have anything to do with killing Brian Drake? I don't know, but I don't know why Elora Gatel would be recording Brian Drake the day before, or 30 minutes before he's about to get murdered, and introducing him to her brother for the first time. How did Elora pay for that appointment? Where is her brother's new patient form? Elora always pays in cash. Why wasn't there more cash there? Where's the cash at? And then Elora saying that the blinds were open. Now, was Elora supposed to be setting somebody up? Elora wasn't pressing, hey, if you can't fit us in, we can go Monday. So I don't think so. I just know that the person who did this is being protected by law enforcement 100%. And law enforcement, my experiences, they only protect their own. So,
Again, the big question is, why was everyone told, including Jennifer Drake, that the cameras at the gun store were fake cameras. And again,
They
if
didn't
anyone
have
has-
anything on them.
If anyone has contact with Jennifer Drake, please let her know that, because maybe
If Jennifer
she'll
Drake wants
understand.
proof, I'll supply the proof.
This is a really big deal. You know, you were told a lie. We heard
100%. Everybody in Bonner's Ferry was told a lie.
and we heard the
Butch
audio.
Butch jerks off to his cameras. He loves cameras. He loves his cameras. His cameras 100% loves them. They most certainly work. And ISP most certainly 100% across the board viewed those cameras.
And you were told, you know, in your interview, Jennifer Drake, that those cameras didn't work.
And if those cameras showed Dan Ward, don't you think that they would use those cameras?
So who is on that camera?
So what do those cameras show?
And you should want to know, for the sake of, even if you want to put it to bed, for the sake of truth for your husband and for your children, you should want to know. So reach out, somebody have her reach out to Lana, or have, you know, find out your own way. But we know that and we have the proof of it. So why were they lying to you about it? We can't fight harder for the truth for your husband and your family than you do, Miss Drake.
I was always told they were just for show. They didn't work. 100% not true. That's what a lot of people were told. And that's just not true. I can tell you, ask me any questions you guys want to know about this case, and I will tell you what's fact to fiction. Brian Drake. Rumor had it that he was having sex with multiple women in that community. Period, across the board. There were anonymous phone calls made into the tip line that Brian Drake was sleeping around and that somebody coughed up the name Stephanie Butler. And the police lied and said it was the ex-husband of Stephanie Butler, and it was not. And I want to know why the police would lie about who called in the name Stephanie Butler. I know that there's a woman, and I'm just going to say it. There's a woman named Stephanie Chase, who was 100% engaged in a trading, bartering system with Brian Drake. And I want to know what they traded, because my sources tell me that Stephanie Chase has 100% been involved with home wrecking before. And that is something that Brian Drake engages in. If Brian Drake told his patients in Texas that he would touch their butt, what an ass. Oh, what do you say to that Lacey girl? Oh, God, sorry, I thought you were my wife, and fucking touching her ass. I mean, this is stuff that he did back in 2007, continued to 2012, continued when he was in Idaho. He was burning bridges everywhere he went. I was told that and I have, when I say told, I make sure that people bring the receipts. All right. So Bobby Goad, you have a fetish for underage girls. I want to know who's burying those underage reports. There is 5 to 7 girls that have come forward and saying that they were assaulted, and no one's doing shit about that. What the fuck is wrong with you people out there? Okay? You think these girls are lying? No. In the 1980s, Honorable Magistrate Judge Quentin Hardin, your house was the drug house. You were supplying the best coke in town. You had your runners who were anywhere between the ages of 15 to 25 running your coke. You had strippers and hookers coming to your cabin.
What are you doing in that town?
Prostitutes coming to your cabin. Supplying prostitutes for your friends. Supplying coke to your friends. Having like literally the youth in the community growing up and, hey, you need a job? Sure, yeah, you can fucking run some of my drugs. You're bringing the strippers / prostitutes from Spokane. I want to know why this is an unsolved homicide. Time would go by where there'd be a homicide where there was a ruse where a car trunk, or I'm sorry, hood was popped open. A girl and a guy, one of the names, what was his name? Brandon Hurst was murdered, right? Over some drugs by his friends because they were all geeked out. Drug addicts, right? Well, one of the people that was involved in the ruse is literally on the towers right there by Drake's office building at the time of the fucking murder. Don't you? I mean, they have an unsolved homicide here. Don't you think maybe you should bring in that dude and ask him some questions since he's, I don't know, had his hands in some shit back in the day? If I was a detective, I would. Look at who's on this list. Look at all these people that are, on the cell towers being in the area at the time of the crime. None of those people were questioned. I mean, look this shit up. Take these names. Google them. I'm not making this shit up. People out there think that Dan Moore's daughter or wife was banging Drake. That never happened. Guess who put out that rumor? The same guy that was serving you guys up cocaine and fucking prostitutes.
Yeah.
This fucking judge is putting out rumors. Brian Drake never slept with Karen Moore or their daughter. The fuck, Karen Moore? Karen, bless her heart over there. She's probably like, the hell? She's got about, I don't even know how many years on that man.
That's not, they're in love. Like, leave Karen and Dan.
But I'm just saying that is absurd. And that is not even in the reports of ISP. They're saying Dan Moore killed 430 patients.
Yeah, over 30.
Over 30 patients.
And then guess
who started the rumor that happened?
Probably that judge.
The judge started the rumor about Karen and the fucking daughter.
What is wrong with him?
Dude, go fucking do a fucking 8-ball, man. Hope it has some fentanyl in it. Fuck. Shut the fuck up. Embarrassing.
We've been embarrassed.
That town has actually so many nice people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the nice ones, they get overshadowed from these fucking dipshits. That's the truth.
Well, the dipshits seem to be running it, and the nice ones are just like, this is a fiasco.
Yeah. This. If I lived in that town, I'd be at the Bonners Ferry Police Department every day, saying, what the fuck are you guys doing? I have a right to question all of you people. I pay your salary.
Excuse me.
Lana's
in again, everybody.
Lana's here. What's up? This is horrible.
Horrible.
This is horrible because the people in that community are lied to every single day. Every single day, you guys are lied to. What else are they lying to you guys about?
I mean,
all of those freaking pastors up over there. How many people are you guys banging? I'm being serious.
Yes.
Totally serious. Like, I don't know what's in the water, but right. I mean, maybe that's a thing here. But become a pastor so you can just bang a bunch of people, including your wife, but then you have all these girlfriends. The fuck out of here.
What kind of church is that?
What kind of Christians are you?
I don't know, man.
I mean,
There's a lot of flagging activity too out there. Trying to see if couples are into swinging by like trying to show stuff off. Weird.
you're telling me that Drake spent 2 nights a week in that community and nobody ever saw the man? Nobody ever hung out with this dude? He just hung out with himself? Guess what? People don't get murdered if they're that boring.
What?
Yeah, boring people don't get murdered.
Mm-hmm.
Or are you trying to say, listen, no, man, that's how fucking crazy the wife is? Because then that's really like, look at that. But think about this. Nobody in that town came forward to say, hey, yeah, man, I kicked it with Drake. Or is it that none of these fucking detectives asked anybody worth a damn who they should have been asking questions to any questions? Or why aren't you sitting them down and saying, here's the text messages. So you just want to keep lying over here, Mr. D? Let's talk about it. When would you hang out with Drake? How did he know that he could get this shit from you? Where are you getting this shit from? This stuff needs to come out in the civil case. Let's get some ass puckering going on. But you're going to sit here and tell me that Drake spends Mondays and Thursdays out in Bonner's Ferry, has a flip and fuck in his office, and nobody ever hangs out with this man.
Okay, can please tell everybody what that even is? Because I didn't even know that that's what that was called. It's a futon.
It's a futon, basically. Go look it up.
Calls it that. But no, seriously though, getting back to being serious.
I'm being serious.
No,
Monday
I'm saying
nights
Jennifer
and Thursday
Drake.
nights.
Jennifer Drake
Who was kicking it
lied to.
with? Yeah,
So-
Jennifer Drake. Yeah,
She needs.
but
to-
Jennifer Drake also lied. So
Yeah, but she needs to get on with and figure out.
yeah, Jennifer Drake, you need to get with the program. You want to make some money, honey? You need to sue the shit out of the police departments, the Boundary County Sheriff's Office. They didn't try to save your husband's life at all. I mean, you have the discovery. Did you watch it? Like, they made no life efforts to try to
Life-saving effort.
none.
Sheesh.
None. It's bad. I mean, these guys are all looking around at each other like they've never it's wild. It's actually very, very wild. And why was the front door of Dr. Drake's building unlocked? Who unlocked that?
Is that normal?
No. Who unlocked that? Well, the same person that walked the fuck out that door with his phone. That's who unlocked it. What type of questions do you think Jennifer Drake's going to be asked on the stand? I got a good one. Jennifer, where were you all day? Nobody asked you that question. Nobody's asked you that question. Jennifer, if you're a stay-at-home mom, why didn't you go to one of your kids' events that night? Lostology. Why didn't you go watch your son, give a presentation at Lostology? Jennifer, whose phone did you use to call 911? I think if Jennifer Drake if she's innocent, she'd be calling me up right now and saying, okay, let me give you some insider info that I have so that I can figure out who killed my husband.
Well, I would hope that she would, after finding out, if she really didn't have anything to do with it, after finding out, especially about all this stuff that came out tonight, too.
Especially if you thought that I did it. Especially if Leanna thought that I did it.
No, screw that. I mean, even screw that part.
Well, she cares about her image.
Well, I don't care. But what I'm saying is, if you really want for your kids and your husband to know the truth and you've been lied to, this is the time to step up and, go in with the hard facts and putting everyone's brains together and being like, look, why are we being lied to?
I think my husband had a sex addiction. That's what she said in one of her interviews. And I said, yeah, he probably does.
Well, I think she kind of needed
But
that.
but how? Just, I mean, maybe if you would have let the guy watch porn.
Let the guy watch.
She didn't let the guy have Google on his cellular device. Like, excuse me? Like, think about how many times you Google something to, like, I mean, just wild. Absolutely wild. Like, just wow. That means you don't trust somebody. How are you in a fucking marriage that you don't trust somebody? I personally believe in everything. It's, why the police, they don't even know Jennifer Drake. Why would they protect Jennifer Drake? I don't believe that they are. You don't protect somebody like that. There's no reason to. There has to be something in it for them. But why Jennifer Drake wouldn't be suspect number one and then be eliminated tells me everything I need to know. Why wouldn't Jennifer Drake be suspect number one? She has to be suspect number one. Have you ever heard of a husband being murdered and the wife is not suspect number one?
You start out and then, you start in and go out, right? That really didn't happen here, but, there's so many lies in this case. It just is a cluster. But again,
why was Jennifer Drake given the criminal discovery? The fuck? I've never heard of such a thing. That's like saying, okay, listen, O.J. Simpson was taken to court, okay? He obviously, in a civil case, he had his own criminal discovery because, he went to trial, right? He has his discovery. Nicole Brown Simpson's family wouldn't have the criminal discovery, right? But now think about this. Think about a case that never went to fucking trial. And it's an open and active investigation. How does Jennifer Drake have the criminal discovery? How does she have more of the discovery than Dan Moore has? I mean, do you understand this? She has files in this discovery that Dan Moore doesn't even have. What the fuck? How is that possible? And then that should tell you that ISP withheld discovery to Dan Moore, okay, and go and get it. Go and file and show what Jennifer Drake turned over and said, this is what I have. That's how this all came out. Jennifer Drake, telling and saying that she is going to use the criminal discovery against fucking Dan Moore in her wrongful fucking death suit. Well, please do. Because that discovery that you speak of, it does not implicate Dan Moore at all. In fact, the discovery, if you do your work and you do your homework, it is a potential to implicate you and your son.
I would just try to get to the bottom of it. If I was Jennifer, I would try to get to the bottom of why the police lied to me about those cameras. That is incredibly important. Start there. Just start with that. Start with that fact and then work your way.
Defense isn't allowed discovery in Idaho. What are you talking about? Yeah, I think that's the number one thing in this case is that the community was told that Brian Drake was shot through the window. due to a gunshot going through the window. That 100% happened. It was designed that way. It was designed to say that they had. You guys understand that this was very well put together, to the point of that he was sitting at his desk finishing his work allegedly, right? And that somebody shot him through the window and killed him. And it was somebody that was, jealous and cased the joint and knew where he worked and knew that he worked late. And it was somebody that had an issue in this competition of this chiropractic world, right? Well, who put that in the heads of everybody? Jennifer Drake. That is Jennifer Drake's narrative from jump. Okay? Because Jennifer Drake has sworn up and down in all of her interviews that she did not know that Brian Drake was ever having an affair. Ever once did he have an affair. Brian Drake, she finally comes clean and says that he drugged her, took pictures of her, had put his hands on her and the kids. But see, Jennifer Drake can't say these things because then it would give her motive. It's motive. That's how it would be perceived to law enforcement. If Jennifer Drake maintains that she didn't know that any of that was happening, then why would I go and kill him if I didn't know any of that? That's what she's going to stick to. And how these veteran detectives got snowballed.
Oh, I don't think anybody
is it's laughable. How come none of these law enforcement agents have been deposed? When's the question going to come out in court? Because in order for Jennifer Drake to prove her case, she's going to have to put on her witnesses, which are going to be law enforcement people. Okay, because she's going to show that, hey, all of this happened. This is where the investigation led to. This is why we believe that Dan Moore, is the guilty one. It's going to be this. And you're going to have your expert witness being the ME. But the ME's findings do not line up with the police's assessment of the crime scene. They clash. Like hardcore clash. And so if you prove that Dr. Moore or Dr. Drake wasn't killed by a bullet through the window, then because this is a jury trial, a jury is going to have to see, just by a little tip of the scale, that Jennifer Drake's team has to prove by a preponderance of the evidence, by 51%, just a tippet, that Dr. Moore is responsible for Dr. Drake's death. Well, how the fuck? What? And I don't know how. I would have been deposing all these jackasses. All of them. I would have been deposing them about 100%. Let's talk about the $1 million. Let's talk about on the same day. Do you know how many phone calls Jennifer Drake made to the insurance company? She made way more phone calls to the insurance company than she ever did to local law enforcement to ask, hey, is there any updates on my husband?
And so are we safe to say that Jennifer then is just going to roll with it and not worry that they lied to her about the cameras?
Yeah, she doesn't. She's not doing anything about that.
That's it's like, I was telling you the day of hiding stuff is over, because everyone has, like, when you have your own, when you're not silenced because of you're on mainstream media and you're able to say you can't silence a YouTuber. And I think it's dangerous to lie and get caught lying and the truth's coming out, and it's really a shame if you don't want to figure that out for your kids.
Why isn't anybody asking Mike Van Leeuwen why he told what is it? Omaha, Mutual of Omaha.
Uh-huh.
Why would Mutual of Omaha?
Yeah. Talk about it.
Yeah. Hey, Van Leeuwen. Why did you call Mutual of Omaha and tell them that Jennifer Drake was cooperating with authorities and you have no reason to believe that she's a suspect?
I don't know, but in 3 weeks, I mean, like, keep it clear. Like, you could say that after maybe a year, right? But when did they do that?
But on the same day, your partner, Tolson, said that, my God, we just started. Everybody's still a suspect. We don't even know. We haven't even begun to investigate because we're still gathering all the information.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I want some of these answers before I go into court. I want to know why I would use the preliminary hearing right now against against Van Leeuwen and Marty Ryan like son of a bitch. What they said, and I mean, Hall is fucking dead, or otherwise you do him too. A civil suit gives you, this is like you have a chance to go and depose people that you would never have that opportunity. And so why aren't you deposing the fuck out of law enforcement? I have no idea. That is a no-brainer that you would want to depose. Definitely the person that interviewed Dwayne Fish, to ask them, when you heard Dwayne Fish say that at 6:50 is when he got a call from Brenner, you didn't have any follow-ups to that? That didn't cross you as odd when you would have examined Jennifer Drake's phone records to see that she did talk to her son at 6:56. And that he was texting her at 6:52, but she wasn't responding. So then he called, and then they actually had a conversation. And that wasn't interesting, that what Dwayne Fish had to say. How about this? Why aren't you asking people why they never interviewed Amber Van Ling? Ask these detectives. When Aaliyah Sandlin said that it was 30 minutes after or before seeing Stephen Hartman, when we went back and saw that, would that not put into question the time frame of the murder? Because Aaliyah Sandlin saying that she heard the gunshot basically at 7, right? Why didn't you get Isaac Funderburg and Aaliyah Sandlin's cell phones and download them and get them? Hey, can we see those cell phones? Hey, can we download them? What the fuck is going on? Who else do you have at that point in time? The dog walkers. You see them on the camera, and right away, that time is going to be all messed up. Then you get all the financials in from the Drake family to see he has this cash on him, and compare it to the credit cards that went through that day to see how much money there truly was. And did Elora Gatel, did she pay that day? I mean, Drake put down that it was $250, but he never said that she paid cash or with the card, and Elora is a cash payer. Also, he never changes the book to add Caleb Kakoa. Also, he never adds a new patient in form for Caleb Kakoa. What the fuck? So, hey, look at this body cam. Why is this thing no longer here when you're doing the next day to take these pictures? Why is that moved from the, why did you pull up the blinds? What the fuck is going on? Like, you need to get this shit, get them to answer it, and then you need to tie them to answers, and then you're going to go after them with jugulars. You want to know why? Because Dan Moore's life is on the line because they're going to use this civil suit to try to rope him up in a criminal case.
Mm-hmm.
And so you need to know that discovery inside and out. And if you don't, you're going to fail your client. That's hands down. I could tell you every fucking thing in that criminal case, unless it was not turned over. I can tell you what isn't turned over. I can tell you where you can find it to prove that something exists and they didn't turn it over. And I believe that it's Brady material. I believe that it shows, and I need 2 people out there to come forward, and I know that you know and you have what I need. Dude, you cannot let an innocent man go to fucking prison and let these cops rope this man in on a murder. He did not commit. This man did not kill anybody. Nobody. Brian Drake's fingers, his fingernails are dirty. His back is dirty. That motherfucker was outside in the grass. Unless Brian Drake, and guess what? You're going to call every one of those patients in there. You're going to ask him. When Dr. Drake saw you, were his hands all dirty when he was working on you? When Dr. Drake was working on you, was his back, was there dirt all over his back? No, everybody talks about how well groomed he is. Except his shoes, they're horrible. I don't know who bought those for him.
Probably Jennifer.
But and all of these people are going to say no. There wasn't dirt on him. No, his fingernails weren't dirty. You know what I mean? So then how does his sweatshirt or sweater rather get all the dirt on it? You think he just was laying around, decided to, March 12th, go outside, sit by his picnic table and roll around in the fucking grass? I mean, come on. But there's no way you're going to put this man with dirt on his back unless it's you go to show, oh, look at his cell phone. So where is this expert witness going to come in and sit on that stand and testify and show that Brian Drake literally his phone is going outside. Brian Drake had a work cell phone. There was a text message that came in from Ed Holderman about an appointment for the next day at 6:53. Never viewed. It was Cellbrite dumped. It was never viewed, meaning that Brian, after 6:53, in my opinion, that's more of the circumstantial evidence. His cell phone is sitting right there, his work one, right there on his desk. So from 6:53, there's a text message that comes in. Brian Drake never viewed it. It would go through the Cellbrite dump as seen as unread. Wow, that goes with what Lana's saying. Yeah. Hardcore. Because his work phone was on his desk. He starts walking outside, and he was 100%, this man was ambushed. 100% ambushed. And then now Brian Drake's a pretty big dude, right? Did you guys know that there is a vaginal adjustment that chiropractors talk about?
Don't talk about it yet again. Oh my God. The first time I heard it, I really thought it was a joke. And then we had to hear about it again. You guys, if a chiropractor tells you can do a digital vaginal adjustment for you, run. That's not normal.
I can't.
I've never had one.
Oh, shit. I'm telling you, what if you came home?
Stop.
Would you ever tell your significant other, hey, by the way?
Yeah, like in innocence, if it was just like.
Hey, by the way, I was telling my chiropractor that my lower back was just killing me. and they were talking about that they can give you a vaginal adjustment. Is that, I mean,
Look, it's doctor recommended, honey. I gotta do it. I'm horrible.
you guys, I'm serious.
No, serious.
This
Not
really
even a
happened.
joke.
This really happened.
It's legitimately a serious
It's
thing.
a serious thing.
And it is bizarre. Is it not bizarre?
How bizarre. How bizarre. So I hit Bonner's Ferry with a 1-2 punch. You guys want to see what my 1-2 punch was? They're going to have their hands full with my requests.
Wait, you're gonna put it through right now?
Yeah.
I would just wait. It's cool now.
Yeah.
Wait.
Oh, I do want to say this, though. Because this is just, I got to laugh, okay?
Okay.
This is part of the evidence against Dr. Moore.
Which one?
Dr. Moore, we know you committed murder because those filters you said you went to change, we're going to talk about these damn filter comparisons. Shut the fuck up. How damn dare you try to lie to us about your filters? So, the day of the gas leak, Sunday, after the Thursday of the murder of Drake. So, Dr. Drake was murdered Thursday night. 6:55, Diana says. 7:27, liars say.
7:26.
Yeah.
They say.
Yeah.
Liars say.
You have Friday go by, you have Saturday go by, Sunday. Dr. Moore decides that he is going to change the furnace filter in his house, okay, and change the furnace filter in his shop, like where he, you know. And so he was planning on going to Home Depot to get a furnace filter, but then realized, because during the interview of his wife said, oh yeah, he was going to get a furnace filter, I think from Home Depot or something, and then that's when he went to the office, and then he was knocked out from the gas, all right, because of this leak. Well, they were determined to find all of these furnace filters at his work, at their house. They're moving. They're in the process of moving. So here they are literally taking pictures, and it's in evidence, of all of these furnace filters and comparing the sizes to say what size this is and what size that is, because we don't believe that Dr. Moore truly went there to change furnace filters. We believe that he went there to go commit suicide and did it by means of a gas leak, put himself in his office and just sat around until the gas took him over.
Oh, God.
That's like, he went to his office to commit suicide. And how we're going to prove this?
Yeah. How?
This is how.
How?
This broad, Leslie Lehman,
Yeah, and I was Lehman, but now
whatever her name is, ISP detective.
No, they called her Lehman the other day.
Filter comparisons. See where it says here 10/27/2020? Why are you writing this up on 10/27/2020? On 11/2/2020, that's going to be the preliminary hearing, okay? So this was like literally not typed up at all. This is Sharpie and on a piece of paper that's a pad that, okay, here we go. I need this for court in case I get called to the stand. This is it. And it says, so 067002, it's going to be, this is this number and it's in use. This is a filter. And then 067-003, so it's report 67, it's going to be, this is in use and it's the same one as that. And then 074006, this is in the crawl space, okay? And then here, 16 by 25 by 20, or by 1, Home Depot, precision, all of this crap. And this is something 3-pack. So it must be like a 3-pack. And here they are. They have these we're going to compare these filters to show that Dr. Moore did not go there on Sunday to change filters.
Okay.
He went there, you guys,
No way.
because he couldn't handle it anymore. He felt so guilty for killing Dr. Drake that he was just going to take his life. Mind you, he just welcomed in a grandbaby. They just bought their dream
home. A home they've been wanting for so long.
And the reason that all of this shit is all over the place, okay, in these houses that they're trying to perform all these search warrants in August, is because this man and his wife are literally moving. They just bought a new home and they're moving. They're moving into a new place. And Van Leuven sits down with Dan Moore and says, who's trying to take out all the chiropractors around here? Dr. Drake is shot on Thursday, and now someone tries to take you out. He's like, what? He literally is saying that somebody is trying to take out the chiropractors. Like, he didn't believe this story that there was this gas leak. And he wants to talk to the Avista person, because you guys have to understand something. The freaking fire department came. Mick Millette, the coroner, who's his best friend, drove on over because he saw that his truck was still there. He went to breakfast. Mick's running around doing shit. And here, Dr. Moore's truck is still in his lot at his office. Like, what the fuck's he doing there? It's a Sunday.
It's a Sunday.
Like, what's going on here? So he stops on and goes on over there. And here, Moore's out of it. He's literally...
Well, explain also...
He had succumbed to the gas.
He has anosmia also, so he had like basically he can't smell.
Yeah, his
sense of smell, which is one of our senses.
Oh, his whole office was complaining about headaches that week.
That whole week.
And here, the fire department comes. Dr. Moore is rushed to the hospital. He's at the hospital. They have to call his wife. His wife has to come down. Dr. Moore, prior to this, has had like 4 run-ins with death. He was in a coma for like, I don't even know, was it like a month or?
Oh my gosh, you guys. The man like is, knock on wood, like, a cat with 9 lives.
Yeah.
He has had so many things happen to him. And for the grace of God, like there must be a reason. And there's a lesson in it somewhere. But yeah, I mean, Dr. Moore, very accident prone, God forbid, because he's a really good person.
So Van Leuven is like, hey, wait, there was a chiropractor that had a gas. I mean, who flagged your attention to say that really wasn't a gas leak? We should go and look at X, Y, and Z. Van Leuven flies into this little meeting that he's having with Moore and is like, yeah, well, I feel like someone's trying to take out the chiropractors in the area. He's like, and so he asked him, have you called 911 anybody? He's like, what? I mean, I've taught my daughter how to call 911 when she was younger. Like, totally going over this man's head on what Van Leuven. He's like, what the fuck? Why would I call 911 on somebody? Well, has anybody called 911 on you? And he's like, huh? Like, just totally like, Van Leuven's over here, though, saying that this was not a gas leak. This was an attempted suicide that failed because Mick came in there and wasn't supposed to save him. But he was trying to attempt suicide. And now I'm saying to myself, holy shit, so out of everything that you're looking at in this case, how does an ISP detective literally think that? You want to talk about conspiracy theory? Who the fuck says that? But then when you hear the stuff, like when you're hearing this guy talk to you and he's like, yeah, I was down there to change the filter. And, okay, well, who goes down there? Do you think that anybody went down there and purposely did this? And He's like, what? Like, he's just not even understanding that this guy is trying to say that none of this makes any sense. And so is someone trying to kill the chiropractors in the area?
Right. It's not computing for damn.
Yeah, and it's like, and nor would it compute with me because it's just so fucking wild. Like,
out of the
like,
world.
if you're really asking about the town gossip, this man was a man whore. He has a wife. He's fucking other people. That's what's being said. And you're over here asking me about a fucking gas leak because you think that I tried to commit suicide via a gas leak? Well, why didn't you do your homework? And they said that they did. And I want to know who this man is. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to tell you guys his name. Because I'm going to call him. I am going to call the guy from a Vista.
Oh, yeah.
From a Vista who
No,
said.
don't do it right now.
I'm not going to call him right now.
No,
Not right
don't
now.
give his name now.
I want to tell you guys the report. And he was asked these questions to say that he believed that.
Because we were told by the by someone in the fire department out there that it was totally normal, and the police were trying to get them to say that it wasn't, and they were harping on the fact to say this wasn't normal. So they finally were able to get somebody to say it wasn't normal, and it happens to be the Savista guy. Okay, how? You're willing to get on a stand and say what you saw wasn't normal when we have fire personnel saying no, totally happens more than fires around here. Gas leaks happen more than fires. Totally normal. And what a way to off yourself, you guys.
Like,
can you not think of any other way? And you're a doctor? I'm just gonna go down, lay down.
Here, this is the guy I found it.
Don't show it, because
I don't give a fuck.
oh my god, forget it. We're never gonna call now.
Dr. Moore needs to sue his attorney for malpractice. I'm certain he will win. He needs to find a legal malpractice. I just know that what needs to happen is we need to call the damn Avista and say, you need to fire this man, you know?
I don't want to get him fired.
I'm kidding. Nobody's getting anybody fired. Okay, here it is. Let me just print this on over here. Let's see. This is great. I love it. This is my favorite part of my days. Come on here and there we go. Yeah. On May 6th, Detective Alderson and I, Detective Sergeant Van Leuven, interviewed Bonners Ferry Fire Department Chief Dave Winey regarding the gas leak reported in March. So on the same day that they're doing canvassing in the area, you know, May 6th, they're canvassing the area to get all those cars that I was telling you about. They also talked to the to Winey, the fire chief.
Right.
And he said that, he responded. Dr. Moore's office on March 15th in response to a call from Coroner Millette regarding a gas leak. Chief Winey advised responding to the building and noticing a strong odor of gas. He said the fire department shut off the gas at the meter and opened up the building to air it out. I asked him if this type of leak was normal. He advised it was very unusual and that he had never been to a similar gas leak.
Are gas leaks all just like a one-off, or
he described the tightness of the fitting as being just finger tight. He said he thought it was odd. He was in response to me telling him Coroner Millette had reported to us that the leak must have been a slow leak where the gas built up in the basement. Chief Winey advised that natural gas rises. Yeah, it would eventually rise. It could build up there and then rise. What the fuck are you talking about?
Who cares what Mick Millette said?
Yeah. Chief Winey suggested we speak with the Avista employee, Brian, who had responded to the leak. I thought this interview had been recorded, but later learned it had not due to some technical error. You can get fucked, Van Leuven. You fucking piece of shit. Lies. lies.
That's ridiculous.
So, hey, the fire chief out there, Van Leuven, is saying that you said that you've never seen something like this before, and it was so fucking egregious. Do you hear how they just lie?
Well, I don't know.
Oh, I thought this was being recorded, but it just wasn't. How fucking convenient, Van Leuven. Have another donut. Now, this is even better.
Which part?
The time that the fucking cop that they went there. 12:09. Guys are like, he was gone for hours. 12:09 was the event detail. Now let's take a look at. Oh, fuck. How long did it take the medics to get in? Avista advised they could be there in 45 minutes. Let's take a look at good old Brian boy here. Brian!
Baby.
Oh, Brian! Come here, you little scalawag. Let's see what you got for me.
Would you call him Scallywag?
Yeah. Come here, Bri. Come here. Come here.
Mm-hmm.
I got Brian's transcripts. Let's take a look at your transcripts here, Brian.
Oh, no.
Let's take a look here, Brian. Yeah. This is all a bunch of bullshit. But how convenient, right? How convenient. Oh, I thought this was being recorded, but it wasn't.
Balloons.
Well, I would be calling the fire chief in and asking him all about that report.
Well, I would think that wouldn't be admissible then, because you didn't get to record it.
Okay, here it is.
That's so sad.
All right, so today is May 19th, 2020. By my watch, it is 10:21. I am Idaho State Police Detective Richard Alderson. With me, Sergeant Mike Van Leuven, Sir Brian from Avista Utilities. We're here at Bonners Ferry Courthouse in Bonners Ferry. Van Leuven says, so sir, if you could you just tell us what you do for a living and what your experience with the current business you work with and just a general background on yourself? My background would be, I work for Avista Utilities. I've been doing this for almost 30 years. I'm what they call a local rep, which the local rep is in charge of basically taking care of all the gas needs in the community, whether it be responding to just a regular, like a no heat troubleshooting calls, to dig-ins to new construction and facilitating, getting all the construction stuff done and jobs turned in. The first year back in 90 or 91 or 92, I was in apprenticeship. And then after that, I was a journeyman for the last 20.
And you be a dude?
Almost 28 years. And I've been in Bonners Ferry since 1997. Like Van Leuven says, what professional training do you have when it comes to working with gas systems? And he just gives whatever. Okay, guys, let's just not meat and potatoes. Okay. I'd say leak investigation is a big part of what we do when we get a gas order call.
Oh, good.
And you look at all the different things. Some of them are very easy, and some of them, it was just a loose fitting, or there's all different things that can cause a leak.
Are they upping?
Appliances, just in general, blah, blah, blah. Okay. You mentioned recertifying. What sort of certifications do you hold? Well, the gas falls under the federal pipeline DOT. And so there's requirements around that. So he has to, also at a point, he had to get recertified.
DOT? DOT, right?
Yeah, DOT. Okay, sure. So these federal certifications through the Department of Transportation, we have our program that is approved by the federal DOT. Within Avista, yes. And a requirement that was put in place here several years, I'd say back 30 years ago when I started. Okay. You're current with whatever certification that you're required to have for your job? Yes. Okay. So going more into the leak investigation realm of it, there's certifications for leak investigation? Yes. And you're current with that? Yes. You've received training regarding leak investigations? Mm-hmm. Affirmative. And just knowledge. Okay, blah, blah, blah. It says, okay, so responding to leaks is part of your job. Brian says yes. Or reported leaks. So in this case, can you tell us what you remember that happened? I think it was March 11th. Richard Alderson says, March 16th, I believe. Then Van Leeuwen says, March 16th. Then Richard Alderson says, March 12th was the homicide. 16th was a Sunday, says Van Leeuwen. Then Richard Alderson says, yeah. Brian says, the 15th? And then Richard Alderson says, March 12th was a Thursday and March 15th was a Sunday. Listen to these guys. Okay, Van Leeuwen says, March 15th. So March 15th, you were called to a chiropractor's office here in Bonners Ferry, Idaho. Yes. Who called you? Brian says, it was, I don't know who the dispatch was. It was our gas control in Spokane that called me. What did they report? Brian says, they reported a strong gas odor. This would have come from, I believe, the Boundary County Sheriff that related to, called our 1-800 number. And their information, I believe, place of the fire on site, strong gas odor, request, and ETA. And I've worked with the department up there pretty well. In fact, I have the police radio in my truck. And so I just called them on the radio and told them, I'm en route from this location. My ETA is going to be this amount of time. So what was your ETA? Oh, I can't remember what it was. It was probably around an hour or whatever. Detective Van Leeuwen says, within an hour. Okay. When you got on scene, what did you discover? The fire department had already shut the gas off. They had put ventilation fans at the doors, both doing the air changing in the building. What they had said was when they got there, it was an extremely strong gas smell in the building. And when I got there, of course, with the amount of time airing the building out, there was maybe a very, very faint, not much odor. I could detect because they had put clean air in and taken bad air out and shut the gas off. I'm trying to think if they shut it off at the meter, asked Van Leeuwen. Brian says, at the meter, yes. Richard Alderson says, what exactly is gas smell? Because I thought certain gases don't have... I'm sorry, man. I'm so sorry. Excuse me? Wait, what the fuck is going on here?
I don't even care. Just get to him saying what he does.
No.
These creeps are rude.
Oh, God bless. Who are these people? What exactly is gas smell? Because I thought certain gases don't have, and then Brian says, well, the natural gas has kind of a rotten egg, sulfur, mellow type, ion type of an odor to it. Detective Mike Van Leeuwen says, you add that odor to it, right? You add that odor to it, right? What?
Okay, just keep...
That is correct, says Brian. We add that at the reg stations, and that odor is checked on a monthly basis in various locations throughout the whole system. There's a threshold that we try to off-rate that odor in, because if you give it to where it's so strong, you just end up with a mountain of calls that are basically a pilot lights burning all the fuel, but it's giving the residue still putting in this air to so they have a medium. Right, says Van Leeuwen. At 0.40, I'd say it's getting pretty lean. And so the closer you get to the 0, it's really super, super strong. So we check those on a monthly basis at various locations. And then not only are they checked on the monthly location as servicemen, I'm not in the field doing whatever it is being installed or meter change or blah, 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 blah.
What is it?
Oh, God. They come up here on a monthly basis, he says. Detective Van Leeuwen says, so when you're right on scene, the odor was almost dissipated. Brian says, I think maybe a faint little smell. Like I said, gas is lighter than air, so therefore it's going to rise. Van Leeuwen says, so if the gas leak was in the basement, as it was in this case, and there was a stairway with a door that was shut at the top of the stairs, no, it was not shut. Would that door being shut prevent the gas from rising into the upper level? Brian says, it will take the path of least resistance. If there's a complete seal off, it's going to find cracks. It's going to find around, and then Van Leeuwen says, gap under the door. And then Brian says, gap under the door. Van Leeuwen says, it's not going to pool or settle in the basement. Brian says, no. Your different fuels have different weights when it comes to gravity, and natural gas is a 0.6. The other spectrum, for example, propane is 1.5. So that's why it's going to always pool at the lowest elevation, and gas is always going to rise and vent up. Detective Sergeant Van Leuven says, rise up. So when you arrive on scene and they told you there was a gas leak and you'd already seen that they shut the gas off and you'd already seen that they established ventilation procedures, what was your next task that you were going to do? Brian says, the task I do is I have the equipment.
Stop. It's that kind of time.
I have the equipment that we use to look for gas leaks. I can't. Oh, fuck me, man.
It's that time of night.
I can't breathe over here. Oh my God, you guys. Okay, breathe. Okay, here it comes. The task I do is I have the equipment that we use to look for gas leaks, whether it be above ground or underground. I went into the building to see, did I any parts familiar? Did I have a scent? Detective Van Leuven says, handheld electronic meter? Something like that? Brian says, yes, it is. It gives you what your oxygen level is. It gives you your CO, and it gives you your parts per million or percentage of gas.
Oh, yeah.
It wasn't anything that was on the meter.
PPM.
So the fuel being off, I went out to the meter, I believe, and turned the meter on. After verifying what they had for equipment and everything didn't look out of place, I turned the meter on. Is what we call a spot check. And it's kind of like there's some dials that don't really mean a whole lot when it comes to, but it tells you a lot if you have a leak and things like that. On the meter itself, Van Leuven says? On the meter itself, yes, Brian says. So I turned the meter back on, and it's what we call a spot meter check. With everything being off at the spot meter check, you watch that dial and you give it a couple minutes and you put a line on the index or an indication of where that needle's at, and you watch that and you see, okay, is it moving off that mark? Because the gears run in sequential. One's going one way and one's going so you always do it when the gears are always in contact in the upstroke, because if it goes down sometimes, it falls ahead and you have to wait for the drive to catch it back up. So you always get it in the upstroke. So we did that. So he says we there. So we did that. And I could tell there was some leaks.
Go on.
Van Leuven says, full of gas? Brian says, well, yeah. You could see some movement on that meter, on that spot check. It wasn't stopped. There was a small amount of flow going through there. Got it, says Van Leuven. Brian says, so then you can run it through a mathematical formula to say, okay, your leak is 2 cubic feet an hour or it's 10 cubic feet an hour, depending on the amount of movement you have. That's, Van Leuven cuts him off. Did you do that in this case? Yes, I did. I have to see what the movement was. I'm pretty sure I even had Dave, I think, look at that.
Oh.
I said, look. See when I said we? Look, I can see that there's movement on this.
Okay.
Who the fuck? Is he talking about Dave, the fucking...
No. It's talking about bowel movement.
No, he's talking about Dave, the fireman.
Uh-huh.
He knows him by his first name.
Dave Wiley?
Whiny.
Whiny.
Are you gotta be kidding me?
You gotta be out of your mind.
No way.
It's that time of night and everything's gonna be like hilarious.
You guys, you can't make this shit up, man. Oh shit. Okay, here we go. So let's see where we're at here. Yes, I did. I have to see what the movement was. I'm pretty sure I even had Dave, I think, look at that. I said, look, I can see that there's movement on this.
I think you're making him a lot more like excitable than he
Van
really is.
Leuven says, so as far as a number, how many cubic feet per hour? I'd have to do some checking, says Brian. I tried to have them send me some information, but I didn't get that. I didn't get the information I needed. For our purposes, I guess what we're looking for was it a significant leak or a very minor leak, or my thought was the amount that was leaking, Brian says, on the spot check and the location of where the leak was at. He cuts him off again, but he basically just says that I'd have to do some checking. I tried to have them send me some information, but I didn't get that information I needed. Then Van Leuven cuts this motherfucker off. Van Leuven says, had you figured that out at this time, where the location of the leak was? He's just a cutter offer, man. Not until, Brian says, not until I turned the gas on, and then I went in with my detector, and of course, it just set way off. It identified exactly where the leak was at. Where was that? It was on what they call the appliance flex connector, which it would be like a union. But the flex connection, or the flex connects into the hard pieces of the fitting, and that fitting was, again, cuts him off on what appliances of the furnace. The furnace, where was that located? In the basement, says Brian. Oh my God, you fucks! Dan Moore said he went there to change furnaces. I cannot right now. So everything's playing out to what Dan Moore said. Like, I cannot.
Yeah.
Brian, are you sure you want to go down this path? Yes, I do, he says. Let's take a look. He says, on what appliance? Of the furnace. The furnace, says Mike Van Leuven. Where was that located at? The basement. Detective Sergeant Mike Van Leuven says, in the basement? Okay. It was loose, says Brian. You could just do this and turn that knob. Dave was there and I showed him. So I said, it's kind of, Dave who, says Van Leuven. Dave who now? Fucking fuck. Dave Whitey, says Brian. The fire chief. Van Leuven, get your head out of your ass.
Van Leuven, holy moly.
Why didn't you ask him when he said Dave the first time? I caught that when he says we. I'm like, we who? Who? Like, Dave Whitey, the fire chief. And it was just weird, says Brian, that typically if you have a loose flex line like that, you'd normally see them where they were doing some service work on the appliance or a new installation. The dealer did not tighten it down. It was sloppy. My thought was, had that been like that for all the years that he's had gas in there and nothing's been worked on, which he wasn't there because they had taken him off to the doctors. Supposedly nothing had been worked on, but it was like, man, I don't know why this thing wouldn't have been called in a long time ago because it was loose enough that it was leaking pretty good. Van Leuven says, so the question obviously follows. Is this the loosening of that joint? Could that have occurred naturally? Or is it your opinion, based on your experience, that was intentionally loosened? And what's your experience with seeing other buildings with gas connections like that have been in place for years, that now all of a sudden it's finger tight and leaking out of that gas connection? Brian says, I would say that it had to come loose by either someone servicing the appliance, right there, or doing something, because typically those things are locked. Boom. Brian said that the appliance had to be serviced. What did Dan Moore say he was doing? Duh. So what are you fucking talking about, Van Leuven? Brian is saying, so either the appliance would have to be, you're servicing the appliance or doing something, because typically those things are locked. there's no vibration to lock that thing back as loose as it was.
Yeah.
Flex lines are used in appliance furnaces, but mainly like on ranges, dryers, because it has to have the flexibility to pulling the appliance out from the wall. I see more problems on flex lines that are not because they're loose, because they've been pulled them out enough over the period of years that the pipe has created a memory which creates a little crack in the flex line. Detective Sergeant Van Leeuwen says, but as far as the fitting itself, being tightened down and then loosened to the point where it's finger tight, Brian says, it's not normal. Detective Van Leeuwen says, it changes in cold and heat. Cold and heat seasonally going to make that back off? What? He says, no. Is there some sort of lock type compound that is used to make it sure that it doesn't, or just a brass? There's crosstalk. He says, no, it's a throw ring fitting that typically you put 2 wrenches on, one to hold it and one to tighten it in place and soap it out. There's a lot of flex lines that get used that. They soap them out and then there's no bubbles. They're not leaking. Sergeant Van Leeuwen says, so have you ever seen a connection of this type in your years of experience that has come loose on its own? No, I haven't. I've seen them come loose because they had either installed a new appliance and forgot to tighten it down, but as far as, and then he cuts them off. He cuts them off and he says, granted, but as the furnace that's not moved and nobody working on it and a line of that type that's installed. So Mike Van Leeuwen lies here and says, granted, but as the furnace that's not moved and nobody working on it and a line of that type that's installed, no, because there's no vibration or anything like that. You could probably go up there and check it today, because I all used was tightened it back up to get heat going back into the office and re-soaped it. And I mean, I cannot even believe this invalid conversation I'm having right now with myself. This is complete invalid shit. This is absolutely fucking unbelievable. And I'm sorry, but Van Leeuwen is lying, because he said he went there to do what? Fuck with the furnace, to change. Okay, I changed my furnace filter. I don't even know when it was. It was probably like a month ago. I was literally pulling the shit out of this freaking thing and it wouldn't come out. I'm beating the shit on it. Like, just come on. Just ripping to shreds. And I'm like, this is what you get for not changing it sooner. But can you imagine this on the stand?
Everyone falls asleep.
Because this guy says, well, somebody working on it? No, listen here. Van Leeuwen just cutting everybody off. No, you're going to listen here. Nobody was working on that appliance. Dude, all I know is I was tugging on my shit to get the old one out and the new one in, and
what happened?
And I was
No, tell us.
I was pulling on that, like I was totally up in that furnace. Oh yeah.
And then?
Well, I mean, so I'm saying for someone to say that nobody was working on this and nobody was like moving it, and that's what he went there to go do. So I don't understand how when this Brian guy says, okay, so if somebody was working on the furnace, that would make sense as to why this could have gotten shaken down and loosened.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, absolutely. That's what I said.
And so that's interesting, because that's not in justia.com. It doesn't say all that. It just says he says that it was suspicious. It doesn't give that explanation. It's interesting.
But this is where... So on May 6th, they interview the fire Dave. Then on May 19th, they bring in Brian and interview him. And this is Fire Dave. And this is where, remember, Fire Dave, his recording gets, what do you call it? Actually, I bet you I have his own words. I should fucking find that shit.
Yeah, that'd be better than
Detective Sergeant Van Leeuwen says, Brian says, because sometimes you have to take the flex off to be able to pull out the control valve and maybe put a new valve in or something like that. Nothing appeared to be replaced that I could see. But there again, I'm not a service repairman that repairs control valves and different things like that. Now, I was also told, and you can prove this, and I've asked for the records, the meat, what's it called? The meat locker. They were doing there was a bunch of construction, and they were doing jackhammering on the sidewalk.
Right.
And that's what loosened up stuff, so much so that the meat locker, it fucked with the refrigerators and the freezers. They got all loosened up, and a lot of people lost their meat. I mean, this is stuff that you can prove.
Yes, absolutely.
You can prove this. So for them not to say, if you're going to go through this and go to the lengths of, okay, was any work being done? Yes, they were using a jackhammer on the sidewalks right out in front of the building.
And like everyone had to go out and be like, be careful.
Like those of you guys that know that meat locker were Payne. Payne has a piece of that meat locker. Y'all lost your meat. It's bad enough. We're beating our meat. We're losing our meat. So I just think this is absolute craziness that they think that they're going to go forward and here gas leak Brian's going to come through and make sure that Dan Moore, I mean, poor Brian has no idea what he's being used for at this moment.
No, I mean, he's just saying it and then they're just taking it and running with it.
Yeah, completely running with this. Here, so where was he at? Because no vibration or anything like that. You could probably go up there and then check it today. Blah, blah, blah. So given that, says Van Leeuwen, what was your opinion of what had happened? And did you have concern about why someone might have done? Do you think someone had loosened this intentionally?
Jeez,
and did you have some concern about why they did it, and did you not? This is what Van Leeuwen is asking this man. Brian says, not having Dr. Moore there were no questions to ask. Why didn't you go to the hospital then? Then Brian says, did he have someone down here servicing? Did he have some work done to it that required a disconnect from the appliance? And then Detective Sergeant Michael Van Leeuwen says, he says no. But then Brian says, but he wasn't there. I was just going off what the fire chief had said, that nothing's been moved, nothing's been relocated, nothing's been worked on. So Brian is now saying that the fire chief is saying this shit. So let me explain something to you guys about the whole fire chief. Okay. Actually, I'm going to leave it there at a cliffhanger.
Yeah, because you didn't even eat. You were hungry so long ago.
Because this is sick.
It's really bad.
Because you know what? I didn't know that this part existed. The fire chief was running his cocksucker like this. So I guess it's fair game now, huh? We'll talk about the fire department here next. The fuck out of here. Brian says,
oh my God, you're going to?
I was just going off of what the fire chief had said, that nothing's been moved, nothing's been relocated, nothing's been worked on, that kind of stuff. Well, guess what? Nobody would have talked to Dan Moore about any of this at that point in time. When the fire chief and Brian, a Vista boy, would have talked, where did the fire chief get any of this fucking information? Because Dan Moore was not available for this information. So Brian then says, so I thought it was just odd to see a very loose flex line if nothing has taken place. Because sometimes you have to take the flex off to be able to pull out the control valve and maybe put a new valve in or something like that. Nothing appeared to be replaced that I could see, but there again, I'm not service repair. That repairs controls, valves, and different things like that. So he then is admitting that I didn't inspect it good enough because also that's not my job.
You want to know what the last piece was?
Detective Sergeant Van Leeuwen. Oh, you finished it?
Watch. I just waited.
Oh. Were you suspicious at all at the time that this was done intentionally? He asks him again. He says, well, I don't know if I was suspicious because, like I said, not knowing, granted, I knew that with, and cuts him off just down the road. I don't mean about that, just prior to that. But Detective Sergeant Van Leven says, I just mean in general, responding to a leak. Was this leak unusual to you in your experience to the point where you were like, maybe something's not right here. Maybe this wasn't an accident. Maybe this was an intentional act. Brian says, well, it goes back to not knowing what Dr. Moore had done taken place. Yeah, it was a question I would like to, it would have been interesting to hear right from him. Hey, nothing has taken place. I don't know, he says. This should have been called in a long time ago to identify because you would have smelt it. And again, he's saying you would have smelt it. Dr. Moore can't smell. I don't know how often they go downstairs, but I think there's files and papers. So I'm sure there's communication from upstairs to downstairs. And then, like I said, the door, but again, Van Leven says, natural gas would have risen upstairs. Brian says, it would have risen upstairs. Detective Sergeant Van Leven says, you've got multiple patients and other employees that are in there every day during the week. And Brian says, yeah, I think of all the years I was maybe there one time for something several years ago. As a patient? No, as a call. This was several years ago. I can't remember this. Jesus Christ. Detective Sergeant Van Leven says, one of the things that we were told was that some of the female employees had complained of headaches the week before, but they didn't say that they'd smelled any odor of gas. In your experience, would a person get headaches from breathing gas but not be able to smell it if they were working in that environment? No. Gas is non-toxic.
What?
He says no. Gas is non-toxic. Where gas becomes deadly is where it displaces the oxygen. So if you have a leak in a confined space, eventually it will displace the oxygen and the gas will get you. The fuck? What are you talking? Yeah, no shit. So then why wouldn't the answer be yes? The operation of the equipment is, if it's cracked, heat exchanger. What are these guys fucking idiots?
I don't know. It's like too late for my brain right now.
Brian says, everyone has a different reaction to it. I work around it. I don't get headaches from it, but I'm not in an environment that is. I would think that if it was full of gas or belly.
He was like constantly breathing this in. He's like, it doesn't bother me anymore. I'm immune. I'm gonna die early. Doesn't matter. What the hell are they saying?
And then Van Leven says, the odor to the receptionist, and they would have followed up and called the fire department, called us or whatever to go out and do a check on the appliance. Okay, Van Leven says, okay, but just without linking it to gas. If there had been a gas leak that week before, to the point where the employees are saying that there's something from headaches, but they didn't smell any odor, is that possible or not really? I'm not going to say it's a possibility. I mean, because he cuts him off. You don't think it's possible? Brian says, I don't think so. You go to different houses and people complain of different symptoms, headaches, nausea, and a minute little leak. In my mind, it's like, man, I think there's something else going on because this is so minute that it's just to be that, what?
It's so minute.
It's so minute.
It's so minute.
Oh, shit.
It's so late that I think we're losing our minds. It's so minute. Do we have a gas leak?
Oh my God. Then he goes, oh my God, I didn't even realize this. He says, I think a patient would have your customer walking in because you leave the office a night, you come in fresh air into a building. It's like, oh, something wrong in here. You're going to smell. Detective Sergeant Van Leven says, so the coroner, Mick Millett. You know Mick? Yeah, he was here. Yeah, he was there. So he and the doctor apparently are close friends, says Van Leven. I can't. Okay, this is.
No one's allowed to have friends around here.
This is wild.
Oh boy.
All right, guys. Oh my God, these two. This is unbelievable. What a bunch of fucking idiots. All right, guys, I'll talk to you later. I mean, unless you guys want to hear more about Sergeant.
I do.
I can't believe he just says, so he and the doctor apparently are close friends. And then Brian goes, affirmative.
Affirmative.
Detective Sergeant Michael Van Leuven says, and this was a Sunday, so the office was not open to the public. The doctor said he came there for the purpose of changing the filter in the furnace.
Right, to work on it.
And Mick noticed his vehicle parked there earlier in the day when Mick was driving by. And then Mick went out and did something, went to get food or something, and then came back several hours later, and he still sees his vehicle parked there. And he thought that was odd. And so Mick apparently had a key to the business, and he went to the door and didn't see any motion inside. The door was locked, and he used his key to open the door. And when he opened the door, he said he was just immediately hit with the overwhelming odor of gas, just a choking amount of gas odor. And he made his way inside the building and found the doctor lying down, passed out on one of the exam tables upstairs. And now Detective Sergeant Van Leuven says, he said, well, the doctor had been downstairs where the gas had been pooling in the basement.
Oh my God.
And the doctor sort of felt like he overcome by gas. And so he made his way upstairs to get out of the gas and lied down on the tables. Didn't go outside. To me, a reasonable person that feel like they're being overcome by gas, he couldn't smell it, would find their way outdoors, says Van Leuven, not to go upstairs and lie down on an exam table. So what do you think about that story? Are you fucking kidding me? This is not his expertise as a story. I cannot. Brian says, well, they said that he had gone in there on that Sunday morning. Like I say, Mick is just a couple of houses away. This is Brian now. Noticed the car there. In a period of time, went to check on him, see what was going on. Just a courtesy deal. And said they found him on an exam table, passed out of sleeping, or what the exact terms were. And then they took him to the doctor and didn't if he had some other health issues going on. Not knowing all the difference because I never followed up on that after I left there. You didn't follow up. He's admitting it. So he says, did he have medical conditions or was there something there? Was it the flu or what happened? See, he's asking, he's like, I never followed up, so I don't know what his medical conditions are. Van Leuven, you are a shit. Because this dude's being honest. He's like, well, I don't know. I didn't follow up. I didn't know. I mean, and then so Van Leuven says, so the doctor says he suffers from anosmia, which a condition where he is unable to smell odors. So that's why he didn't smell the gas. And then Brian says, oh. And then, God bless it. And then Van Leuven says, it struck me that both Mick and the doctor both talked about the gas pooling in the basement because that would be the case with propane, but the case with natural gas. So that seems to be a mistake in understanding of science on both of their parts. Oh my God! And that means they committed murder. I can't. Oh my God. And then Brian says, well, gas is going to rise. It's going to take the path of least resistance. Now, wherever that path is, I mean, if you're leaking under the ground and the ground is frozen and under asphalt, yeah, it might follow a ditch line for long distance and then eventually pop up. Detective Sergeant Van Leuven says, but in this case, Brian says, but in this case here, Detective Sergeant Van Leuven says, it's in a building. And Brian says, it's in a building. It's in a basement. I can see that. The basement's obviously going to be probably the dominant smell where it's at. But when you open the door, I don't know if everything's so tight that you can't get any transfer of air between one floor and the other floor. But I would think that there would be some type of odor upstairs. Detective Sergeant Van Leuven says, if there's a gap under the door, Brian says, it's going to take the path of least resistance. Detective Sergeant Van Leuven says, gas is going to go up, right? Brian says, yep. You've got a furnace that comes on. The ductwork is not sealed 100%. If there's any type of return that could come in from downstairs, It just comes into the return to the furnace and back out to the registers to the supply reg. It would go to wherever the supply registers were supplying. Detective Sergeant Van Leven says, in your experience, when somebody has a gas leak in their house, for whatever reason, like an appliance of stove that's moved in or out or of something like that, do you people stay inside the area where they suspect that there's a gas leak, or do they try to get outside? Well, I see it both ways. Detective Van Leven says, do you? Brian says, I've seen when you call Vista and report a gas leak, they're going to tell you, don't turn any switches on. Go outside, we'll dispatch it immediately, and someone will be there as soon as possible. And to leave a door or window or something open. And then you have the other ones that been noticing for the last 3 weeks and decided to call it in at 10 o'clock at night. They're in the house, but we can't treat it as they probably just a minute little fizzle or something really going on, or no leak at all. So you treat them all with the same. What? Van Leven says, so in this case, when somebody says they feel like they're being overcome by gas, who said that? That is not what Dr. Moore said. In your experience, would they say in a house or would they try to get ventilation? They should try to get ventilation. And then if it's bad enough, oh my God, this is absolutely craziness. So in this case, the doctor apparently said to Mick anyways that he felt like he was being overcome by the gas. And he goes back upstairs and then goes into an exam room and lies down on the table where there was doors to the outside within feet of where he was. It doesn't seem reasonable to me that he would make the choice to go up and lie down on an exam table if he feels like he's being overcome by gas. But Dan didn't say this to you. He would attempt to make it outside. What do you think about that? Well, I mean, that goes right back kind of with what I said a little bit ago. What the fuck? Okay. Sure. There's just, I'm not asking you. I've done enough years of this, and the things these people do is like, really? I got you. So just take a step back, Van Leven says, at the whole thing. Your experience, years of doing this. He is totally talking in, this motherfucking cocksucker is talking this guy into, listen, because I need to use it. Here, I got you. Just take a step back and now look at the whole thing. Your experience, years of doing this, and then the nature of this particular leak with this particular appliance, this particular hose, that particular fitting. The fact that there were people in the office on Friday, patients being seen all day, nobody expressed any odor of gas. You got the doctor that comes in on a Sunday when business is not operating, locks the business, locks the business, and then a gas leak significant enough to where his friend comes and finds it a few hours later, opens the door and says, there's an overwhelming odor of gas because he locked the door. Why? So now you're saying that because Dr. Moore locked the door? Are you insane? How many cases have you ever solved, Van Leven? Holy shit. Put all that together. What do you think? Because I have an opinion on that. I wonder if you have an opinion about that. This is what he is saying to this dude. Brian says, I mean, it seems kind of odd, but I never got to talk to Dr. Moore about it. I'm just going on secondhand relayed information from the fire department to me, and then trying to piece back 2 months ago, the event that happened. But I would say it's odd. I mean, it's almost like someone was going to try to set something up to do something to himself, right? And I've been on a few calls over the years where they created a leak, the light a candle, and then they leave. What? Van Leven says, did you see any candles or any open sources of flame? Brian says, no, I did not see that. The detective says, did you notice any obvious signs, tool marks, or the fitting itself when you looked at the fitting? No. You see a wrench consistent a size nearby? No, didn't see anything that was within the proximity of where the flex line was at all. So that means that Dr. Moore didn't use a wrench to loosen this shit. Okay? And then Detective Sergeant Van Leeuwen says, but it would be your belief that in this particular case, with that type of fitting on a furnace that's not moving, that the joint it not going to come loose on its own. Yeah. But you just asked him, did you see like any wrench marks, any tool fittings that you like could see that somebody had fucked with it? And he's like, no, I didn't see anything. There was no wrench nearby, no consistent size, nothing. And then he has to say, oh, but it would be your belief that in this particular case, with that type of fitting on a furnace that's not moving, that the joint, if not, whatever. Brian says, yeah. Van Leeuwen says, have you ever in your entire career seen in this kind of a case with that kind of fitting and that kind of appliance, a fitting come apart on its own after functioning for apparently, then there's crosstalk. No, not that I can recall. I mean, most of the ones that I see leak, my God. Sergeant Detective Van Leeuwen says, and again, we've got 10, 20 people every day come into that office every day being seen as patients and well staffed. And there were just 2 days earlier, nobody has reported any odor. They reported headaches. And then you have a leak of this magnitude on Sunday. Frank is right, which is, I say, it's kind of odd that it's Sunday. The severity of the leak, and supposed nobody has done anything to loosen the deal, it's kind of weird scenario, but that's what it was. It was very, very loose. And granted, it was a Sunday. But like I said, it goes back to the person. I could see someone maybe sabotaging it to try and create a situation for a landlord-tenant type of deal that's in a dispute. What? So my mind is most people are going to, hey, I got a problem here. I'm going to exit back out and call for help. But like you said, he couldn't smell. So maybe he didn't smell it. I don't know. That's what Brian says. Van Leeuwen says. So when we were interviewing him about this, and we asked about the odor, and he tells us that he has this disorder because of a surgery in his nose. That's another topic, but given the scale of his being an accident, that this fitting just came loose miraculously over the time of maybe someone bumped it or something versus it being intentionally done, where do you end up with that? I would say more it is on the intentional side, because bumping it, I mean, if you're bumping the fitting, it's on the pipe itself. It's going to be pretty rigid, pretty strong. If you bump the flex slightly, I see not a lot of leaks, but a lot of leaks I found on flex lines had been traced back to a crack in the flex line. Not the joint itself. Not the joint itself. What a bunch of idiots. Detective Sergeant Van Leeuwen says, it wasn't properly compressed. It wasn't tightened. It's a union. I mean, it's designed, the hook, the appliance, without having the harm. Jesus. Detective Sergeant Van Leeuwen says, so, you said the natural gas is not toxic in and of itself, but it's the displacement of oxygen that can cause death. Yeah, displaces the oxygen. So how long in a confined space? How long in a building of that size with that kind of leak would, I'm operating on a suspicion that when he came there earlier in the day, that he loosened the fitting intentionally. Would that be consistent enough gas building up over a few hours, 4 or 5 hours, to cause the building to where Mick came and he opened the door, he had the overwhelming odor. Brian said, yeah, I mean, the doorway and the furnace are basically 10 stairs apart from each other from the upstairs. It's just around the corner. It's where the entry is at. And so how much leaked out? I have to do some research on the paperwork to see if it was 3 cubic an hour, 4 cubic feet. Van Leeuwen says, do you have the ability to do that? Well, I tried to have them send something to me. Detective Sergeant Van Leeuwen says, do you have the ability to look at that day, at the gas flow, by the hour or by the minutes to see changes in gas flow that day? That's why I'm for the trouble call here, and I was looking at, let's see if this does anything. What's it say? Is she here? Yes. Is she better up in Marty's office? What? Is she okay with waiting? That's what I've heard the trouble calling here, and I was looking at, let's see if this does anything. What the fuck is she here? Who's here? Yes, tell her we'll be about 5 minutes late. Rich Alderson says. Brian says, see, if I can make a phone call here, because I was curious on myself, is how much was leaking through? Was it 3 cubic feet, 4, whatever? I'd have to call to get that information. But I was also going to look back, and I asked them to give me my billing history for the last 24 months. Because typically in summertime here, usage is very minimal, or it's 0. All they had was the furnace there. And so, because a lot of times you don't, especially on commercial, Jesus. Okay, so Van Leeuwen says, so can you see by the time or just by the date? It would be on a 30-day billing. So would you be able to say on Saturday that there was no gas flowing through the line? I can't. But on Sunday at 9 a.m., all of a sudden gas started flowing? I can't do that. Your meters don't record that, says Van Leeuwen. No. Do you just see from one billing? Yeah, billing from one date to the next date. Okay. And you can see customer kind of has an average history when it comes to usage. So I had an issue with my water. And don't think I'm an idiot here. I'm just trying to be clear so I'm on the same page with you. I had an issue with my water last year. And I felt like they were saying I was using more water than we were. And I did a calculation, blah, blah, blah. So they actually came to my house. I live in Hayden. Oh, do you? I know you do. You live right by Jennifer Drake. I live in Hayden. And they have a water meter system where they were actually able to download my water meter and show me by the day, by the hour, how many gallons that we were using as a family, because it's electronic. Does that exist with natural gas? Brian says, I don't think in this meter here it does. No. Detective Sergeant Leeuwen says, are you sure? Because if it did, he says, I can make a phone call. Yeah, because if that information does exist, that would be very important to us. Brian says 6843. Detective Richard Alderson says, what we could probably do, Brian, is after the interview, you can call and do some of that, because if you don't mind, we can leave it, because I'm curious about the report for this, the trouble, and you said there's a trouble call for this and stuff like that. I don't know if we can get a copy of that. You can probably request that, yeah? Who would we do that to? Detective Sergeant Van Leeuwen says, if a Vista suspects or has reason to suspect that a line has been tampered with intentionally, is there some protocol that you guys follow as far as safety measures going forward or no? Depending on if it's a dig in on a pipeline or something like that nature, but like in this case here, no, I wouldn't have thought that, not knowing the whole story. There's nothing I can do. I made it safe. It's fixed. We're moving on. I'm not going to think that, says Brian. So there's not a report that Avista asks you to file or anything that talks about if this was possibly an intentional leak. No, says Brian. Okay, so based on what you know, what you know now, is it your feeling that this was an intentional leak? Are you out of your fucking mind?
Still asking this question? How are we still on this?
Detective Sergeant Van Leeuwen says, okay, so based on what you know now, which is what? What does he know now? He hasn't talked to Daniel Moore. Is it your feeling? Now it's your feeling. Is it your feeling that this was an intentional leak versus your expert opinion? Is it your feeling? I am dead. Brian says, well, like I said, I think someone had to loosen it up, because if it had been loose for, they would have called in a long time ago. It would have been a phone call. I think the fire department was worried. It was extremely strong in the building, and we have training with the fire department. We work pretty good together. And when they say it was very, very strong, and there was still a faint little hint odor, I think, or said it was pretty aired out by the time I got there. But the odor of the meter, when I purged it and when I did all the maintenance work on it and things like that, the odor is pretty strong. There was no doubt about it. So in a closing building, all the doors, all the windows, God, Jesus Christ. Oh my God, here he goes. So in a closed building, all the doors, all the windows are shut. Do you have any idea how long it would take for the gas to build up to the point where it would displace enough oxygen for a person to die? Brian says, I don't. Would that happen within 12 hours or 2 days or not at all? Brian says, Math to figure that out. Yes, I couldn't tell you. You have to look at all your volume. Look at all. Is there an industry organization that you can point us to? Follow up with those kind of questions. Oh my God. Van Leuven, I've never seen you go so hard for a bone, man. He says Natural Gas Association says Van Leuven. The Natural Gas Association. I can't. Oh my God. American Gas Association, AGA, would be able to have some type of formula on that. There you go. That's a lot of space. All your infiltration areas, exhaust, all those different things. Detective Sergeant Van Leuven says, do people die routinely of natural gas leaks in a closed space? Is that a normal thing to happen? And Brian says, I can't tell you what I know of. Brian says, I can't tell you one that I know of. Boom. Boom. Holy shit. You're never going to get this time back in your life, Lana. I can't. Holy shit. I can't believe this. I can't believe this is what they think. I am dead. Oh my God. So Brian says, I can't tell you one I know of. Then Detective Sergeant Van Leuven says, I guess what I'm saying is, because he didn't like that answer, I guess what I'm saying is, so again, another analogy for something I'm familiar with. We deploy tear gas in SWAT situations. And the Tactical Officers Association has started through testing that you cannot fill a space up with enough tear gas to kill a person. That they may pass out, but you can keep pumping tear gas into a room, and the tear gas would not displace the oxygen to where they would die. So I guess my question is, can a person in a closed space die from natural gas poisoning, or can they continue to breathe the natural gas with whatever residual oxygen there and continue to live for a long period of time? Brian says, to get the displacement of oxygen in this big of a building, what would be your percentage of gas you'd have to displace all the oxygen in that building? And if you're displacing that much oxygen, then you're also running, I would say, a risk of the lower level explosion, which is typically 5 to 15% gas to air. If you jump over that 15%, you can put all the gas you want in there because you've got too much gas and not enough oxygen to create a explosive situation. But as far as dying from asphyxiation, what is it if you get below 19%? Oxygen. So if you get over 19%, when I went in there, it was to start with, I couldn't tell you what it was to start with. Through your training over the years, says Van Leuven, have you heard of people dying from natural gas being overcome and dying from natural gas leak? Is that a thing? And he says, not in residential, no. In certain application, like on the big rig stations, gate stations, there have been some instances where people went in and got overcome by gas. Another went to find what was going on and got overcome by gas. And they died. But that's not a residential commercial. That's totally separate from this. So you've never heard of someone trying to commit suicide by natural gas leak in their house. And he says, no, I've seen people do stuff that may be trying to create a fire or something. They don't know enough, but they know a little bit. And so they think by doing this, they're going to create this, but they didn't. Van Leuven says, right. So Brian says, no, I've seen people do stuff that maybe no, I've never heard of somebody trying to commit suicide by natural gas leak in their home. Brian is saying no to this. Detective Sergeant Van Leuven says, right. And then Brian says, that's why you go back to put a gas leak with a lighted candle. What? Right, said Sergeant Van Leeuwen. But in the case where it's just gas leak, where they back the fitting off, yeah, most of it's like I say, people just forget to tighten it down, and someone going to call and go, shit, I think we have a strong gas leak. And they're going to go, fire department, or whoever, and call us, blah, blah, blah. Okay, says Van Leeuwen. Brian says, I just did what I was there for, and I didn't do anything beyond the, well, maybe someone had worked on it or something, but it was just very odd. Detective Richard Alderson says, you've answered most of I just had a couple more. I just wanted to clarify for the tape. Of your 30 years here as a local rep, how many did years specifically have had the leak investigation certification? Approximately. Well, that's probably been in place since the mid 2000s, so a decade and a half, probably, Yeah, but basically all the same training we had as a agreed, but you've actually had, but for the federal pipe dot, yep, and you've got a decade and a half, probably at least, yeah. Tremendous, more experience, and then admit, I just want to make sure I understood what you were saying. I'm pretty sure I do. You said soap them out and the bubbles. So I'm assuming what you're saying is when you're checking a leak, you put soapy and you see if there's bubbles coming up. Yep, that's just like I say, your instrument will pick it up. Gotcha.
Oh boy.
Yep, I understand. I just want to make sure. At this point, I can't remember if I put soap on it, and I probably wouldn't have put it in my notes because it would just blow all the soap away. What? I mean, if it's leaking good enough, a lot of times, you can't get the soap to stay. It just blows it anyways.
Just blows.
Just blows. Okay, and this would have been that kind of a leak. Unless you put your hand around it and create a restriction and it just bubble up. Could you feel or hear the gas escaping from the fitting? I can't remember, says Brian. You don't remember? Says don't remember. When I turned it back on after the air boiled out, my family member says, did you find the source of the odor using your meter? Yep, I just pointed it right down and it pegged it right out. Right there is the fitting. Mm-hmm. So, Brian, I have your card here, your email, Brian, blah, blah, blah. So I'll email you from my ISP email account, and that's where we can communicate about getting any kind of paperwork. So you might want to go get that, lawyers. There's definitely communication there, and you need to talk to Brian because Brian says, I've never seen anybody commit suicide this way.
Yeah, and they totally wrote a different narrative.
And he says, yeah, I'll see if I can get, and if it's a downloadable meter, I'll see if I can get it for you.
He's not going to be good on the stand.
Here, let's do a shot.
All I know is Mike Van Leeuwen.
It's time to go to bed and do
Mike Van Leeuwen, you are insane. You are absolutely off of your rocker. Okay? I cannot wait for you to take the stand in this case.
We'll bring Brian up because he doesn't even seem like he corroborates everything.
No, Brian's
stating.
like, I didn't even get to talk to Dr. Moore. I have no idea. This is secondhand information.
Yeah. He's not going to, like, as an expert witness, he'll be pretty credible because they'll be like, yeah, no, I didn't do what they said.
Again, this is clear as day, okay? There was girls complaining of headaches, all right? There's girls that are going to be testifying to that, all right? And it was just in the days leading up to that Sunday, okay? So yeah, over the weekend, it could then become way worse. But at the end of the fucking day, this is literally what you think happened? Versus $1 million life insurance policy and a bunch of fucking Swiss cheese holes in the story of a numerous people. I don't know who's more pathetic. Cheers.
Cheers.
Mm-hmm.
It was a nice read, but
Mike Van Leeuwen, I have documentation that says that you and Jennifer Drake have known each other for quite some years and that she's had your phone number in her stored contacts for quite some time.
Wouldn't that be a conflict of interest that he would to take this case?
Yeah, it's kind of like the Karen Reed case. The Proctor situation.
Well, they deny that.
Oh, this is just pure sick.
Pure sick.
This is just sickness.
No, it is. And, again, the Moores are never going to be able to even recover, even if they're completely
I mean,
exonerated.
Maybe.
No, because it's hard with a small town and gossip and everything that goes on, and this didn't need to go down this way. So,
Well, all I'm thankful for is that it kind of did. That Jennifer sued civilly, because if she doesn't do that, I'm never even able to put out any of this stuff.
well, you would
And then they
never
would
find it,
Yeah.
But
Jennifer Drake made all of this accessible. So again, it's kind of like a catch-22. But
So-
again, thank you guys for supporting. I'm telling you this: if you live in that area,
if you live in that area, demand some transparency.
yeah, and you are entitled to the transparency.
Yes, because you are the government. You pay for these people.
Yeah.
So demand it. There's corruption. If every one of you stand up against it,
And guys, what they try to do in these situations is, until I put hey, this is what they said in this report. Like this fire guy, right? This fireman. Oh, I thought we were recording it. We just weren't. I cannot wait to call the fire department tomorrow. I'm going to be talking to Dave Wimmypoo. Me and Dave Wimmypoo are going to have a real conversation. Because he has a right to know, hey, your interview, it wasn't recorded. And are you aware of this is what they have you saying?
Mm-hmm.
And we're basically, you are throwing Dr. Moore under the fucking bus and trying to put out this narrative that's just not there. So we're going to talk about it. I'm calling, and you're going to answer this, because this was a report.
a report was taken.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And somebody is quoting you. And I swear to God, if you were some fucking volunteer firefighter, I'm gonna be pissed. Mic drop. See you guys. Bye.